In a crushing blow of betrayal, Willard Art Clazen uses his authority as the future king to publicly annul his engagement to Remelia Rosa Graupner. Accused of abusing the Star Maiden and showing no remorse, Remelia is cast aside by everyone she trusted, including Prince Claude, David, and Stefan. Overwhelmed by the injustice and the weight of her failed efforts, Emmy's consciousness finally snaps, and she slips into a deep, dormant darkness. But as the crowd waits for a response, a different set of eyes snaps open. For over 10 years, the original Remelia has been a silent observer, watching from the depths of her own soul. Now seeing the girl she has come to love broken and humiliated, the true owner of the body awakens, refusing to let herself look unsightly in the face of such hatred. Walking tall with a cold, piercing gaze, Remelia declares her innocence with an iron will. She swears on her own name that she will never confess to a crime she didn't commit. Amy spent years building a beautiful reputation as a duke's daughter, and Remelia resolves that she will not allow that precious legacy to be disgraced by these traitors. Facing the group of people who tore Amy's world apart, the true villainess emerges from the shadows of the heart. With a chilling resolve that echoes through the hall, she delivers a silent, deadly promise. She will not forgive a single one of them. The game has changed, for the villainess has finally awakened. When memory drifts back to the very beginning, to a night in childhood when a sudden, high fever claimed consciousness. A young girl wakes up in a strange room, parched and disoriented, barely able to move as she searches for water in a place that feels entirely foreign. When she finally awakened, she found herself adrift in a void of darkness, separated from everything she once knew. Confused and terrified, she catches a glimpse of a reflection. A small blonde child staring back at her. The realization hits her like a physical blow. This isn't her body. Panic surges as she realizes she is no longer in a hospital, but trapped in the body of a child in a strange world. As she wails for her family, a furious voice erupts from within, accusing her of being a rogue and a miscreant who has stolen her body. It was a violent clash of souls, a feeling of having her entire being robbed away. Tears stream down the young girl's face as she sobs an apology for her own death, her heart breaking for the life she left behind. From the depths of the consciousness, the original Remelia watches this fragile, grieving soul. In that moment of shared despair, a bond begins to form between the two spirits sharing one destiny. Suddenly, a torrent of foreign memories crashes over Remelia, flooding her consciousness with images of a world she has never known. She sees a girl in a modern city, surrounded by friends and family, and the harrowing moments of a life ending in a hospital. Every emotion, every shred of consciousness from Emmy's past life, flows violently into her own soul. As the dust settles, Remelia is left reeling, questioning the identity of the little girl who had occupied her body, while her first instinct is to demand the return of what is rightfully hers. A strange, unexpected flicker of empathy emerges. Despite the intrusion, she finds herself hoping that the girl is okay. Deep within the void of their shared existence, Remelia observes Amy's purest essence. She is struck by the girl's selfless heart, someone who wept more for the grief of her family than for her own death. Though Remelia cursed the gods and spirits that bound them together, Amy became the only soul in the world she could truly forgive. This kindness stands in stark contrast to Remelia's own childhood, a cold wasteland of neglect. She recalls reaching out to her parents, only to be met with chilling indifference and treated as a nuisance to be dealt with. In a world where she was never cherished, the concept of love was nothing more than a distant, unreachable dream. Wet through the bridge of that shared soul, Remelia begins to feel something she never had, genuine warmth. She experiences the echoes of Amy's life in Japan, the laughter of friends, the bond of family, and the simple joys of a life lived with love. For the first time, Remelia understands what it means to be truly cared for. But the memories are not all sunshine. She also feels the crushing weight of Emmy's final moments. She witnesses the raw, agonizing grief and the endless loop of apologies as Emmy sobs for the life she left behind. The sheer intensity of that sorrow leaves Remelia breathless, feeling every ounce of the girl's regret. Overwhelmed by a love she cannot explain, Remelia bows her head in a silent, heartbreaking apology, mourning the suffering Emmy endured. The boundary between them dissolves as Remelia admits the truth to herself. She has come to love the girl who stole her body, and she can no longer bear to see her in pain. In the days that follow, Remelia discovers she can browse Emmy's memories like a vast, endless library, learning about Japan, universities, and the culture of another world. She decides to absorb all of Emmy's knowledge, finding it far more exciting than her previous solitude. But just as they seem to find a peaceful rhythm in their new shared life, a sudden, jarring shock shatters the silence. A sudden, shocking realization hits Amy as she looks in the mirror. She isn't just in another world. She has been reincarnated as Remelia Rosa Graupner, the very villainess she adored from her favorite game. Overwhelmed with a mix of panic and fangirl excitement, she can hardly believe that she's actually become her beloved Remelia Tan. The memories shift to her early childhood, where a young Emmy finds herself engaged to the second prince, Willard, during a visit to the royal palace. Sensing that the coincidences are piling up, she begins to cautiously question her mother about the nobility of this world. While her mother responds with a smug, satisfied smile, the truth lurking beneath the surface is far more sinister. The dark reality of the original Remelia's life is revealed. Despite her near-limitless magical potential, her parents viewed her as nothing more than a tool for a political marriage. Desperate for the affection she never received as a child, she tried to force Willard to love her, but he only grew to hate her. It was a cold arrangement of selective breeding designed to merge magical bloodlines, and the arrival of the Star Maiden only accelerated Remelia's descent toward doom. While the Star Maiden effortlessly won over the boys at the academy and honed her powers to save the world, Remelia was cast as the monster. To the world, she was a loser in love, who went mad with obsession and sought to destroy everything because she had been deprived of love. In the eyes of history, she was a pitiful villain, destined to perish in solitude. But there was one person who saw her differently. Remelia discovers memories of Emi in her previous life, sobbing with heartbreak for the pitiful villainess, wishing she could cook for her and give her a warm bed to sleep in. Remelia is stunned to realize that while her own parents never loved her, this strange girl from another world loved her unconditionally. Through Emi's memories, Remelia experiences the warmth of a true family, the simple joy of holding hands while walking through a Japanese neighborhood, the comfort of reading books together, and the smell of home-cooked meals. It is a world of tenderness and belonging that the original Remelia could never have imagined. As she witnesses Emi's bonds with her parents, siblings, and friends, a deep longing takes hold of Remelia. She watches the scenes of shared baths and bedtime stories, wishing with all her heart that they could have been sisters. If they had been, she believes Emi would have protected her from the crushing sadness of her lonely existence. Driven by this newfound love, Remelia's resolve hardens into an unbreakable vow. She throws herself into her studies with a fierce intensity, swearing to do everything in her power for the girl who cherished her. The pitiful, lonely girl who once cursed the world will no longer exist. In her place, Remelia will ensure that the love Emi gave her becomes the foundation for a future where they are both finally happy. With a heart full of devotion, Emi makes a solemn vow. She will do everything in her power to ensure the happiness of the original Remelia. No longer just a fan of a fictional character, she embraces her new life with a singular driving purpose: to protect the girl who once suffered in solitude. But the road to happiness requires strength. Realizing that the world is doomed if the Demon Lord isn't defeated, Emi decides she must become powerful. However, she quickly discovers a jarring reality. She can't simply mash buttons to level up in real life. To bridge the gap between game logic and reality, she begins gathering strange monster materials, determined to find a way to train. The path to power is paved with failure. Emi spends months in a cycle of grueling experimentation, grinding materials and attempting to absorb their magical properties. Despite wasting a staggering 300,000 gold on failed attempts, she refuses to give up, meticulously recording every mistake until a glimmer of success finally appears. As last resort, Emi drinks a foul, disgusting concoction of magical materials. The result is an explosive surge of energy, leaving her with a thicker magical presence and far superior control over her abilities. The original Remelia watches in awe as Emi spends her days and nights fighting monsters, hunting for demon shards to refine into powerful mana stones. In this world, using precious mana stones for mere training is considered heretical, as they are usually reserved for divine prayer. But Emi, utilizing her status as a duke's daughter, pours every coin she has into obtaining these shards. She isn't just increasing her raw magical power, she is refining her very ability to wield it, pushing her limits far beyond what is considered normal. The fruits of her labor are put to the test when a group of bandits launches a brutal ambush on a royal convoy. Guards fight desperately to protect their lord, but they are quickly overwhelmed. As the chaos peaks, a bandit closes in for the kill, leaving Claude's father defenseless and facing an imminent death. Just as the blade is about to strike, a devastating magical attack tears through the battlefield. In a flash of blinding light and complex magical circles, the attackers are obliterated, leaving the survivors in absolute shock. Stepping through the wreckage with effortless grace, Emi arrives on the scene, calmly asking if the man is hurt. With a bright, cheerful smile, Emi calls out to her uncle, having successfully prevented the tragedy that was written in the original game's plot. Claude and his father are left stunned by her sudden appearance and overwhelming talent. Though she is shaking from the intensity of the spell, Emi is simply glad she had the strength to save him, officially beginning her journey of rewriting fate. But despite Emi's desperate efforts to change fate, the unrelenting power of the plot strikes back. Not long after his rescue, Claude's father succumbs to a devastating epidemic that sweeps through the country. Left alone once more, Claude is adopted into the main family as Amy's stepbrother, leaving Amy terrified by the realization that some tragedies may be inevitable. Haunted by the belief that his father despised him for his mother's death, Claude sinks into a gloomy, cheerless existence. However, Amy refuses to let him suffer. She discovers hidden letters in the deceased Viscount's office, letters filled with a father's love and apologies for his absence, and shares them with Claude. In this world, the rift between father and son is healed before the end, stealing the role of the savior from the game's original star maiden. With the weight of his father's love finally known, Claude recovers from his grief, showered in the warmth and affection Amy provides. He grows into a cheerful boy who deeply treasures his stepsister, though a new, unspoken feeling begins to bloom within him. While Amy sees him as her precious little brother, Claude's heart begins to beat for her in a way that transcends family. Amy's kindness doesn't stop with Claude. She turns her attention to David, a boy crushed by a deep inferiority complex toward his legendary older brother. Recognizing David's unique talent as a swordsman, a detail only the Star Maiden knew in the original game, Amy encourages him to find his own path. Inspired by Amy's own grueling training, David gathers demons, shards, and ventures into the monster-infested forest, desperate to prove his worth. But David's ambition nearly leads to his demise. Unused to fighting hordes of monsters, he is quickly overwhelmed and left on the brink of death. Just as hope fades, Amy rushes in to save him, her presence a sudden light in the darkness. Battered and broken, David is left conflicted, wondering why she would risk herself to save someone as pathetic as him. The moment of tension snaps into a chaotic explosion of emotion as Amy clings to David, her face contorted in a comedic, tearful rage. She screams at the top of her lungs, calling him an idiot for taking such a reckless risk. Her raw, unfiltered worry proves to David that he isn't just a project to her. He is a friend she truly cares about. In the quiet of the forest, David admits his burning desire to stop losing to his brother, hoping to gain the strength necessary to stay by Prince Will's side. As she listens to his resolve, Emmy's gaze turns distant and determined. Every person she saves, every heart she heals, is a step toward her ultimate goal, ensuring a future where the true Remelia can finally be happy. Finally, Emmy reaches out to Stefan, the son of the palace mage, who had abandoned his dream of becoming a musician out of fear. By encouraging him to follow his passion and introducing him to songs from her past life in Japan, Emmy sparks a fire in his soul. Though Stefan is nearly overwhelmed by her genius as a composer, Emmy's unwavering support becomes the turning point that saves his dream from fading away. With an infectious passion, Emmy throws herself at Stefan, urging him to never stop making music. She tells him his pieces possess a heart and soul that can make her dance and cry all at once. Flustered and overwhelmed, Stefan is convinced that Emmy is a musical genius, never suspecting that the divine songs she shares are actually memories from another world. Emmy's natural kindness becomes her greatest strength, as she spends her days selflessly helping everyone she meets. As she saves those around her, her talent blooms, and she begins to embody the ideal Lady Remelia that the world admires. But this perfection creates a complication never seen in the original game: the growing, suffocating jealousy of Prince Willard. In a moment of raw honesty, Willard confesses his frustration, admitting he's jealous of how effortlessly Amy seems to solve every problem. This triggers a heartbreaking confession from Amy, who breaks down in tears, revealing that she worked so hard only so she could stay by his side as a lady he would never be embarrassed by. For the first time, Willard stops seeing her as a talented childhood friend and sees her as a girl. Touched by her vulnerability, Willard's jealousy melts into a deep, protective affection. He realizes the immense effort Emmy put in just for his sake, and asks her to forgive him for being so thick-headed. In this tender moment of reconciliation, their bond deepens, forging a connection that feels stronger than any scripted plot. Watching these dazzling scenes from within, the original Remelia feels a warmth she has never known. She finally understands what Emmy meant when she said she wanted to see Remelia be happy. Seeing Emmy loved, admired, and cherished is all the happiness Remelia ever needed to feel complete. Remelia basks in the joy of seeing Emmy and Willard together, sincerely hoping that they can continue their happy life without ever breaking their engagement. It is a beautiful, fragile piece, but the shadows are closing in. As the original Remelia watches, a chilling realization sets in. These happy times are about to come to a violent end. The piece is shattered upon Amy's enrollment in the academy by the sudden appearance of the Star Maiden. With a smug, knowing smirk and a predatory gaze, the newcomer leans in to whisper a devastating truth. "Hey, you're a reincarnator too, ain't ya?" With one sentence, the girl's secret is exposed, and the real game begins. Despite the looming threat, Emmy is currently at the peak of her popularity, admired by the entire student body as a member of the student council. Students whisper in awe of her beauty and her heroic deeds, praising her for the lives she's saved. She is the most beloved girl in the academy, completely unaware that the predator has already marked her for destruction. Throughout the academy, the name Lady Remilia is spoken with nothing but reverence. From curing a deadly epidemic to implementing a free school meal policy for the poor, Emi has transformed the villainess into a saint. Her peers admire her, not only for her academic and magical brilliance but for her genuine kindness toward commoners, making her an idol to all. Everyone, she is the perfect lady, a beacon of grace and compassion. But as Emi basks in this hard-won reputation, a ripple of excitement spreads through the student body. A rumor is circulating about something very rare arriving at the school, a presence that will change everything. The air shifts as a new student makes her entrance, the Star Maiden. With a sly, knowing expression that belies her youthful appearance, Pina Blanche has arrived. The catalyst for the game's original tragedy has finally stepped onto the stage, and she knows exactly who Emi is. Presenting herself as the Maiden of Salvation who appears in times of crisis, Pina puts on a masterful performance. She plays the part of the humble, cute commoner to perfection, asking her new classmates to get along with her. To the unsuspecting students, she is a miracle. To Emi, she is a dangerous predator. While Prince Willard and the student council discuss the rarity of the Star Maiden's appearance, Emi is paralyzed by a sudden realization. The arrival of Pina means the grace period is over. The real plot of the game is finally starting, and the battle for her future has officially begun. Without invitation, Pina breezes into the student council room with a cheerful, airy greeting. She barely glances at the decor, commenting that the room is plainer than she expected, before introducing herself with a bright smile. The intrusion is bold, calculated, and designed to disrupt the peace Emi has carefully built. In a shocking display of aggression, Pina lunges forward and throws her arms around Prince Willard, calling out to him with hearts in her eyes. The room freezes in disbelief at such an improper gesture. While Willard is disgusted, Emi is momentarily caught in a whirlwind of fangirl shock, unable to believe she is seeing the real-deal heroine in action. However, the script is already diverging from the game. Willard coldly pushes her away, reminding her that he is royalty and already has a fiancé. David and Stefan quickly follow suit, scolding her for her lack of basic manners and telling her to leave. Though Pina's first attempt to charm them fails, the chaos leaves Emi shaking. Knowing that this is only the first of many attacks, Pina makes a quick exit, playing the part of the clumsy, overexcited girl to cover her tracks. While the boys are left bewildered by her strange behavior, Emi is deep in thought, wondering if the real Pina's personality differs from the game's because of the player's influence. But before she can escape her thoughts, a sharp voice cuts through the air, calling her back. The facade vanishes instantly as Pina corners Emi, dropping a bombshell that leaves her breathless. "You're a reincarnator too, ain't ya?" With a predatory glint in her eyes, Pina accuses her of being the villainous Remilia, demanding to know why she's so close to Prince Will and the others, when the game's script says they should be enemies. Verbal assault becomes vicious, as Pina mocks Emi for using her knowledge of the future to cheat her way into everyone's hearts. She sneers at Emi, calling her a creep and a villainess who is simply trying to build a reverse harem for herself. Emi can only stand there in shock, unable to find the words to defend herself against such cruelty. Losing her temper, Pina screams that Emi is nothing more than an auntie trying to ruin the narrative. In her mind, this world is her story, and Emi is an intruder who doesn't belong. After hurling one final, biting insult, Pina walks away, leaving a devastated Emi alone in the silent corridor. Stunned, Emi realizes that Pina is also from Japan, but she refuses to believe she's doing something wrong. She reflects on her journey, reminding herself that she only used her knowledge to create a better life. Memories of the people who now genuinely admire her, and Prince Willard's tender words flood back, giving her the strength to hold on to her convictions. Emi knows that in the original game, Prince Will was meant to be the heroine's capture target. But as she looks back at the lives she saved and the tragedies she averted, her resolve hardens. If her actions stopped people from dying or getting hurt, then she knows without a doubt that she made the right choice. Driven by her inherent kindness, Emi tries to remain optimistic. She believes that since they both know the tragedy that awaits this world, she and Pina can put aside their differences and work together to stop it. She hopes that by talking properly, they can find a way to understand one another. But the reality is far from her dream. Emi watches as Pina continues to manipulate the boys with fake innocence, her legend growing among the students. Seeing the predator's claws reach for the people she loves, Emi's patience finally snaps. The gentle girl is gone, replaced by a fierce determination to protect her friends from the filthy reverse harem. Aiming slut, Pina begins her campaign to seduce the boys by trying to recreate the game's original scenes. But she fails miserably. In her attempt to charm Stefan, she showers his music with superficial praise, calling his soul kind and happy. Little does she know, the piece was written with a tragic motif, leaving Stefan feeling insulted and awful about his own composition. The failure continues with Claude in the library. Pina attempts to spark a deep intellectual conversation about the Sanandra dynasty, but she's holding a book about a completely different kingdom. Confused by her blatant ignorance and strange behavior, Claude simply ignores her, leaving Pina's calculated move to crash and burn. Even David is left baffled by the Star Maiden. While he is focused on his rigorous training, Pina suddenly appears out of nowhere, acting overly cute and calling him Lord Dav. Instead of being charmed, David finds her intrusions weird and disruptive, further proving that Pina's game knowledge is far too shallow. Pina's most desperate tactic is the clumsy girl act, where she constantly falls over in front of the boys, specifically targeting Prince Willard. She remains on the ground, waiting for him to play the hero and help her up. Emmy watches from a distance, bewildered by these forced attempts to trigger the original plot. Emmy realizes that Pina is failing because she's only copying the surface of the game, not the essence. In the original story, the Star Maiden won Stefan over by truly understanding the tragedy in his music. By offering empty compliments, Pina proves she doesn't understand the characters at all, making her efforts look pathetic. The narrative Pina is trying to build also fails, because Emmy has already changed the world. In the game, the heroine's falls were caused by a jealous villainess, which made the prince rush to her aid. But since everyone is currently friendly, Pina's fake accidents just look repugnant and forced to those around her. For a moment, it seems Emmy's changes have successfully neutralized the heroine's influence. With the prince and his friends acting rationally, there is no room for Pina's scripted tragedies. But then, a sudden, unnatural slip occurs, a sign that the forces of the original plot are fighting back. Willard helps Pina up once more, noting how clumsy she is, and Emmy is gripped by fear. She worries that the compulsive force of the original plot is too strong to resist. As Pina looks back with a triumphant, sinister glint in her eyes, it becomes clear that she has started using the power of items to force the story back onto its tragic path. Hidden in the shadows, Emmy watches in horror as her worst fears materialize. Prince Willard is now openly affectionate with Pina, who plays the role of the innocent, love-struck girl to perfection. Seeing the entire student council gathered around the predator, Emmy feels the world she painstakingly built beginning to crumble around her. The poison of Pina's influence spreads rapidly through the student body. Those who once admired Emmy now whisper about the cute and naive Star Maiden, viewing her as a fragile soul in need of protection. As Emmy listens to the crowd's sudden adoration for her enemy, she realizes the narrative has already shifted against her. It is a systematic takeover. More than half the school has fallen under the spell of the items Pina is using to manipulate their emotions. Emmy stands alone, a solitary figure facing a tide of students who have been artificially swayed, leaving her isolated in a place where she was once the most beloved. Then come the lies. Vicious rumors ignite like wildfire, painting Emmy as a cruel monster who bullies the innocent Star Maiden. From hurling public abuse to putting worms in food and setting fire to clothing, the accusations are grotesque and baseless, yet the students eagerly embrace them, convinced that there is no smoke without fire. Desperate and cornered, Emmy tries to distance herself from Pina to avoid further suspicion, but the trap is already closed. She tells herself to fight back with evidence and logic, warning herself not to blindly trust anyone. But as she reaches for a way out, the weight of the falsehoods begins to crush her spirit. The betrayal is absolute. One by one, the people Emmy trusted most begin to desert her, leaving her collapsed on the floor in utter agony. While she suffers in silence, Prince Willard looks on with a smile, finding Pina's strange behavior interesting. Emmy can only watch in helplessness as her life is dismantled. A final blow from the person she loves most. Prince Willard confronts Emmy, admitting he knows she's innocent of the rumors, but he dismisses Pina's malice as her simply living in a different world. With a smile that feels like a knife, he asks Emmy to be nicer to Pina. Just for his sake, Emmy's world shatters. She screams in desperation, pleading for him to believe her and denying the lies that have branded her a villain. But her cries fall on deaf ears as misunderstandings and blatant falsehoods are twisted into gospel truth. In a moment of total powerlessness, Emmy realizes she has lost everything. Pina continues her masterful performance, playing the role of the humble martyr. She apologizes for being too friendly, claiming the blame for the tension herself. Completely blinded by her act, the boys rush to her defense, swearing to protect her from anyone, even their own relatives, who would dare treat her poorly. But the conspiracy runs deeper than just Pina. A traitor within Emmy's own inner circle has been working in league with the Star Maiden, providing personal items to help frame her. This betrayal is calculated, ensuring that Emmy is isolated and vulnerable exactly when Pina needs her to be. Ina's talent for playing the victim is unmatched. She manipulates the commoners by acting as though she's walking on eggshells to avoid upsetting Lady Graupner, and even fabricates threatening letters on Emmy's stationery. The school's perception is now absolute. Pina is the saintly victim, and Remelia is the remorseless monster. The trap finally snaps shut on a quiet staircase. As Emi walks, Pina seizes the perfect moment to stage a tragedy. With a sudden piercing scream, Pina throws herself down the stairs, making it look as though she was violently pushed from behind. As she hits the floor, Pina's face twists into a sinister, triumphant smirk, knowing her plan has worked. Emmy reaches out in sheer shock, but it's too late. Prince Willard and his friends arrive at the exact moment of the accident, finding Pina sprawled on the steps in apparent agony. Emmy stands frozen, her heart racing in terror as she looks at the scene. She searches for any sign of trust in Willard's eyes, but she finds only a cold, piercing gaze. The silence is deafening as the prince utters her name, his voice devoid of the warmth it once held. Pina erupts into a torrent of fake tears and wails, accusing Emmy of being cruel and heartless. She screams that pushing her down the stairs is too much, even for someone who hates her. The surrounding students are horrified, their whispers turning into shouts of attempted murder as they conclude that the rumors were true all along. Desperately pleads her innocence, but her words are drowned out by the crowd's hatred. Willard ignores her cries, lifting Pina into his arms and delivering the most devastating blow of all. "I'm disappointed in you." As Emi is branded a criminal and a monster, Pina leans into the prince, wearing a hidden evil smile of total victory. A nightmare becomes a reality. At a royal ball, Emmy is publicly accused of attempted murder, and in a crushing blow, Prince Willard declares their engagement broken. It is the height of absurdity, as a mere scratched wrist and sprained ankle are twisted into a capital crime, and Emmy's desperate pleas for innocence are dismissed as the coldness of a remorseless woman. Broken and betrayed, Emmy's spirit finally snaps. With her world shattered and her heart torn apart, she falls into a bottomless pit of despair. But as Prince Willard demands a final word from the accused, a different presence stirs. After 10 long years of dormancy, a pair of sharp, cold eyes snap open. The original Remelia has awakened, and she refuses to let her vessel look unsightly in the face of such pathetic accusations. Gone is the trembling, heartbroken girl. In her place stands a woman of icy composure and regal pride. With a gaze that could freeze the room, she swears upon her own name that she will never utter a falsehood by confessing to a crime she did not commit. Prince Willard and Pina are left stunned by the sudden change in her aura. Deep within, the original Remelia feels Emi's spirit drifting into a deep, silent sleep. A wave of profound longing washes over her as she realizes that Emi, the only one who ever truly loved her, did not deserve any of this pain. Remembering how Emmy saved her heart long ago, the original Remelia makes a solemn vow. She will be the shield that Emmy no longer has. Addressing Prince Willard with chilling determination, she declares her intent to reclaim the happiness that Emmy worked so hard to build. The atmosphere turns electric as the original Remelia calmly questions the legality of the decision. An infuriated Prince Willard lashes out, listing the irrefutable evidence, sworn testimonies from maids, guards, and coerced nobles, along with fabricated threatening letters. He demands to know how she possibly expects to escape this trap. With an icy calm, the original Remelia declares that every piece of evidence against her was a malicious fabrication. Prince Willard, blinded by his own arrogance, believes she is simply refusing to give up. He offers her a final chance to apologize and mend her ways, but her response is a single devastating word: no. Willard is left speechless by her sudden defiance. While he fumes, Remelia realizes that wasting her breath on a man who blindly believes the Star Maiden is pointless. She decides to maintain her mask of submission for now, watching with detachment as Willard, irritated and confused, orders the guards to escort her out. Returning home, Remelia faces the disappointment of her father and the royal family. The man expresses his regret, revealing that the royal ball was designed as both a debut for the Star Maiden and a final ultimatum for Remelia. The trap was set, and according to them, she has failed miserably. When asked if she has any final words, Remelia doesn't beg for mercy. Instead, she strategically accepts her punishment: confinement to the Graupner properties, as long as her title remains intact. Her only request is for a Shadow Watcher to be assigned to her, a move that leaves her father contemplating her strange compliance. As she walks away, Remelia dissects the political game. She realizes Willard's plan was to force a public apology to sweep the scandal under the rug, and that she has lost her value as a pawn in her father's eyes. The noise of the noble mob was loud, but her willingness to accept the broken engagement has left her enemies completely off balance. The time for kindness is over. Remelia looks upon the traitors and the vulgar mob who tormented Emi, her heart hardening into a weapon of vengeance. She knows she is currently playing with an empty deck, and must withdraw to gather her strength, but she marks every single person who caused Emi pain. Above all, her gaze settles on Pina. For driving her dear Emmy into a pit of bottomless despair, Remelia vows that death will not be enough to absolve the girl's sins. Instead, she will weave a living hell on earth for the Star Maiden to endure. At home, her father's fury boils over, disowning her and ordering her move to the countryside estate. Remelia remains unfazed by his hatred. With a calculating smile, she makes one final request: full authority over the running of that estate. A seed of curiosity is planted in her father's mind, and the stage is set for her counterattack. Remelia begins her gambit by manipulating her father's own arrogance. She argues that granting her full authority over the rural estate would save Duke Graupner's deeply valuable time from the boredom of minor maintenance. To seal the deal, she makes an offer he cannot refuse: the full and exclusive rights to every single product Emmy developed using her knowledge from another world. The deal is cold and absolute. Remelia promises to vanish from the house forever if the Duke covers her moving costs, ensuring that the royalties from Emmy's brilliance don't go to waste. Seeing her as a useless pawn now that the engagement is dead, the greedy Duke eagerly accepts, demanding the rights be handed over by the next morning. Alone at last, Remelia looks out at the horizon, knowing the foundation of her revenge has been laid. She vows to hunt down every single traitor and reclaim the happiness that was stolen from Emmy. To restore the honor of Remelia, the villainess, she prepares to unleash a darkness the world has never seen. While the original game used crows, Remelia finds spiders far more practical for her needs. With a chilling command, she binds the creatures to her will, ordering them to become her hands, feet, eyes, and ears. Now, nothing in the world will be hidden from her sight. Remelia arrives at the desolate rural estate, a place of isolation that she will transform into her fortress. As she holds a mana stone in her hand, the air crackles with energy, signaling the start of her secret preparations. In the quiet of her library, Remelia focuses her power on refining mana stones. With a cold, calculating precision, she amasses a mountain of processed crystals, ensuring she has more than enough energy to fuel the ambitious plans she has set in motion. While she appears to be relaxing with tea, Remelia is actually omniscient. Through her spider network, she monitors everything: the whispers at the school, the royal guards foolishly surveilling her garden, and the secrets of the capital's back streets. To her, they are all merely fools playing into her hands. The hunt begins. Having discovered a vital secret, Remelia dons her cloak and activates her teleportation magic, vanishing in a flash of light. Thanks to the guards' blissful ignorance of her abilities, she now possesses the perfect alibi to move unseen and strike from the shadows. Stepping through the silent corridors of her estate, the original Remelia reflects on her own nature. She doesn't view herself as incompetent, but rather as abnormal, for possessing the rare ability to cast teleportation magic on her own. She knows she was bestowed with these extreme abilities and unique skills for one sole purpose: to stand as the ultimate obstacle in the path of the heroes. Now that she has regained control of her body, Remelia is determined to unleash the true power of a villainess. But this isn't the power of the kind Emmy, nor the power of the lonely girl she once was. This is the power of a Remelia who has known the warmth of being loved, and she vows to create a world of peace that Emmy can eventually return to. Remelia gathers the servants hired by her father to look after her. With a serene smile, she presents them with a surprising offer: a generous amount of severance pay and letters of recommendation. Despite their confusion, she insists on letting them go, knowing that their presence would only be a liability. She explains that she was falsely accused in the capital and banished by the new lover of the crown prince. To protect the servants from being swept up in the misfortune that surrounds her, she urges them to find new work. As they leave the estate in tears, moved by her unexpected kindness, Remelia watches them go with a calculating gaze. Royal guards, sent to surveil her, are left baffled as the servants depart with their luggage. Unbeknownst to them, Remelia has already activated a powerful barrier around the estate, sealing it off from prying eyes. She smirks at the guards' ignorance, knowing that the tears of the servants will spread word of her suffering back to the village, further manipulating the public narrative. Safe within her sanctuary, Remelia realizes the importance of spreading the truth in remote areas, far from Pina's influence. She can't trust anyone close to her, as they might simply be pawns of the Star Maiden. Suddenly, a loud rumble interrupts her thoughts. Her stomach is growling. She realizes that because she shared a body with Emmy for so long, she had simply forgotten what it felt like to be hungry. Determined to connect with the dormant soul within her, Remelia takes to the kitchen. With surprising skill, she prepares a meal of bacon, eggs, and pancakes, Emmy's absolute favorite. As she plates the food, a tender smile touches her lips, honoring the girl who saved her heart. Favoring every bite, Remelia makes a silent promise to continue eating all of Emmy's favorite foods. Just as Emmy nurtured her for all these years, Remelia vows to maintain this connection, ensuring that when Emmy finally awakens, She will find a world where she can once again enjoy everything she loves. Remilia wanders through the halls of her estate, the silence echoing around her. For the first time in a long time, there is no noise and no judgment. Just a heavy, oppressive quiet that fills the empty rooms. A soft smile touches her lips as she realizes that, right now, it is just her and Emi in this mansion. In this solitude, she finally feels a sense of peace she has never known before. Remilia embraces a new routine, handling everything from laundry and cleaning to gardening and refining mana stones. She is determined not to let Emi's hard work go to waste, vowing to build a world of true peace that Emi can one day return to with a clear mind. Her search for answers leads her to a hidden exotic shop overflowing with mystical artifacts and strange concoctions. Remilia enters the store with a sharp, calculating gaze, searching for the key to her enemy's power. Her eyes lock onto two specific items, charm perfume and a love potion. As the shopkeeper explains their power to manipulate affection and force people to like the wearer, Remilia immediately recognizes them as premium items from the original game. The truth finally clicks into place. Remilia realizes that Pina used these very items to sway the Academy and the Royal Guards, turning everyone against Emi. It sickens her to remember how Emi tried to warn them, only for those fools to dismiss her warnings as mere jealousy. Fury boils over as Remilia recalls the faces of the scum who happily watched Emi suffer. Realizing this premium shop is the source of Pina's manipulation, Remilia decides on her first move. She will tear this entire operation apart. Remilia coldly rejects the shopkeeper's attempts to sell her the potions and horoscopes. When the merchant points out that his shop isn't found by accident and asks what she truly wants, Remilia gives a chilling reply. What she is after isn't goods. Remilia's eyes glint with a knowing smile as she reaches out toward the shopkeeper. It's you, she murmurs, leaving the demon merchant completely bewildered by her sudden recognition. Dropping her hood, she formally introduces herself as Remilia Rosa Graupner. She doesn't hide her fall from grace, casually mentioning her exile from the capital and her current status as the lady of a small remote village. The shopkeeper immediately connects her name to the rumors of the idiotic ex-fiancé, who allegedly tried to murder the Star Maiden. Remilia remains unfazed, proposing a mutually beneficial deal for all demon folk, though the merchant is suspicious, wondering if she's simply leading them into a trap to earn a reward from the capital. With a serene expression, Remilia makes a shocking proposal. She wants the demons in hiding to leave the shadows and establish their own village within her new territory. The shopkeeper is left speechless, unable to comprehend why a human noble would offer such a sanctuary. Her is pure, cold ambition. Remilia declares her intent to build a land so prosperous that it will serve as the ultimate slap in the face to everyone who framed her with false charges. While the shopkeeper questions how he would benefit, Remilia reveals she is after one specific thing. Remilia appeals to their shared status as outcasts, arguing that it's far more logical to trust fellow exiled spirits than the humans who were so eager to betray her. She acknowledges the suspicion, but insists that their shared experience of being driven from their homes makes them the perfect partners. To prove her sincerity, Remilia hands over a heavy bag. The shopkeeper expects gold, but as he opens it, his eyes widen in absolute shock. Inside isn't coin, but a staggering hoard of shimmering mana stones. The merchant is completely floored as he examines the gems, realizing that every single one is of premium grade, perfect in transparency, size, and cut. Stunned by the sheer value of the offering, he can only ask one thing. Where on earth did she get these? Remilia doubles down on her offer, handing over another bag of gold as a token of her goodwill. She reveals that this is the entirety of the money she has saved since she was a little girl, leaving the demon merchant completely stunned by her willingness to gamble everything on this deal. The shopkeeper bluntly calls her insane for wanting to build a village of demons in the remote countryside. But Remilia only smiles. She knows that to be taken seriously by outcasts, she must prove her commitment with an act of absolute madness. She lays out the harsh reality. The demon realm is a wasteland, forcing many to hide among humans just to survive and send support back home. Remilia offers them a far better alternative, a sanctuary in her village where they can work in peace and live like kings. Intrigued but cautious, the shopkeeper asks for time to consult his allies. Remilia leaves the gold as collateral, departing with a graceful wish for good news. As she vanishes, the merchant is left wondering how someone so sharp calculating could have been so easily cast out of the capital. As she departs, Remilia reflects on the premium items from the game, recalling how their powers manifest in the real world. She bids the shopkeeper a final farewell, leaving him haunted by the sheer audacity of her vision for a demon village. Walking away, Remilia notes a crucial strategic advantage. The love potion and charm perfume have no effect on demons. This means Pina's manipulations will be useless against her new allies. She tells herself that Emi would have wanted this, A world where the marginalized can finally find happiness. But as a sinister smirk crosses her face, the true villainess emerges. She asks herself what could be a happier world than one where everyone worships her. She has no intention of seizing power by force. She plans to make them want to serve her. Back at her estate, Remelia gazes out the window, her mind already racing toward her next move. She refuses to rest on her laurels, but for a brief moment, she wonders if the sleeping Emi enjoyed the little scene she caused at the store. A few days later, the demon shopkeeper returns with good news. The resettlement of the demon folk has begun, starting with those who have nowhere else to go. Remelia is pleased, but the real victory is in the shadows. She reveals that she was the one who manipulated the nobility's suspicions toward Pina's premium items, forcing the merchant to stop selling his bestsellers to avoid royal scrutiny. Remelia takes it a step further, suggesting the shopkeeper move business to the town near her village, where she can vouch for his identity. As she secures the loyalty of the merchant and his compatriots, she smiles with cold satisfaction. With one move, she has completely severed Pina's access to the magical items that fuel her manipulation. But Remelia isn't the only one playing a game. Royal Intelligence Agents A and B are closely surveilling her every move, waiting for the wolf to reveal herself beneath her sheep's clothing. They believe she's merely shopping in her exile, but their smugness is about to be shattered by a shocking discovery. To the agent's utter disbelief, Remelia walks into the Adventurers Guild and registers as a monster hunter. They mock her fall from grace, imagining the former future queen reduced to hunting beasts for mere living expenses. However, Remelia's visit isn't about desperation. It's about a display of power. Remelia begins dumping a hoard of legendary materials onto the counter. Cockatrice plumes, crimson bear livers, and void rat venom glands. One rare item after another hits the table, leaving the agents speechless and suspicious. They wonder if she looted her parents' mansion, but the sheer volume of high-tier materials is simply overwhelming. In the midst of the chaos, the demon shopkeeper makes a surprise appearance, greeting Remelia with a casual heya. The intelligence agents are baffled by the mysterious merchant's familiarity with her. The shopkeeper, however, is unsurprised, noting that a mage of Remelia's caliber would naturally sign up for the guild in her own territory. The shopkeeper asks if they can continue their business relationship even after his move. Remelia warns him that her reputation among nobles is abysmal, and that most merchants cut ties with her long before her exile. She doesn't want her poor standing to bring him unnecessary trouble. The merchant laughs, declaring that he's no squeaky clean businessman, and cares nothing for noble etiquette. He's only interested in the mountains of gold they can make from new developments and rare materials. They strike a priority trade deal, leaving the spies in a state of total confusion while Remelia smiles, knowing she's secured an invaluable ally. The demon shopkeeper asks if Remelia is planning a new product, but she corrects him with a surprising ambition. As the new lord of her territory, she declares her intention to look after her village properly. Eavesdropping from the shadows, the intelligence agents are floored. How could there possibly be a village in that desolate wasteland? Remelia asks the merchant to introduce her to prospective settlers, specifically orphans and the elderly who have no one left. She envisions a sanctuary where those who have fallen on hard times can finally live in peace. To the agents, however, this looks like a pathetic attempt to score brownie points after her fall from grace. To the agents' further bewilderment, Remelia takes on a solo request to clear monsters from a conquered dungeon. They trail her cautiously, refusing to step foot inside for fear that she might use them as bait. They can't fathom why she would venture into a dangerous place without a party. Inside the dungeon, Remelia makes short work of the monsters, her power far exceeding expectations. She muses on how easily things are falling into place, knowing that once her village is populated, her activities will no longer seem suspicious. With a flick of her wrist, she collects the rare materials she came for. Reaching the deepest part of the dungeon, Remelia puts her game knowledge to use. By ignoring the final door and channeling magic into a hidden mural of the goddess, she unlocks a secret room. There, she claims a powerful ring capable of boosting the abilities of everyone around her. Holding the ring, Remelia realizes just how far behind Pina has fallen in the game's plot. Pina is so intoxicated by the attention of men that she's completely ignored her duties as the Star Maiden. Even the men, though stronger than their original game versions, thanks to Emi's past kindness, are still nowhere near the level needed to save the world. A cold, determined look enters Remelia's eyes as she declares that this world doesn't even need saving. Why? Because the villainess who was destined to lead the world to ruin, the original Remelia, no longer exists. In the original story, a despair-ridden Remelia would have summoned the Demon Lord, offering the entire world in exchange for Willard's soul, plunging the earth into a choking miasma. The Star Maiden and her allies were meant to be the only hope to cleanse the land. That was the tragedy that should have unfolded. But the script has already been rewritten. Remelia strides forward with absolute confidence, her mind fixed on her rival. She knows that no matter what Pina tries, she will always be one step behind. In this new game, Remelia is the one carving the path to victory, leaving Pina completely powerless to stop her. As Remelia exits the dungeon, the intelligence agents waiting in the forest are met with a sight that defies logic. They find the colossal remains of a monster, leaving them stunned. They can't believe she cleared the entire place so quickly, wondering if she simply fled, until the reality of the slaughter hits them. A panic erupts as a surviving monster suddenly emerges, threatening a pair of innocent locals, an elderly man and a young girl. The agents are caught off guard, screaming in terror as they realize the danger has spilled out of the dungeon and into the forest. Just as the monster prepares to strike, Remelia intervenes with blinding speed. The agents watch in a mixture of horror and awe as she leaps into action. This is the power of the villainess reborn, and she isn't about to let these people perish. In a single devastating flash of her blade, Remelia dices the monster into pieces. The strike is so precise and powerful that the beast is dismantled before it can even react. She stands amidst the carnage, calm and lethal, a true master of her craft. The saved locals look up at her with profound gratitude, while the agents are left speechless by her overwhelming strength. With a mocking smile, Remelia sends a silent message to her rival. She will save the world long before the Star Maiden ever gets the chance. Remelia stands tall in the sunlight, her sword still drawn, as she looks over the terrified but safe villagers. In this moment, she isn't the villain the world expects. She is the hero they desperately need. The young girl gazes at Remelia with wide-eyed admiration, seeing a savior instead of a monster. But beneath the heroism lies a cold, calculating resolve. Remelia vows to rob Pina of everything, including her very reason to exist. The old man tries to offer Remelia a meager reward for saving them, but she refuses. She knows that the genuine gratitude of the people is far more valuable than a few coins. Instead, she gives the young girl some dried fruits, leaving the child in awe and calling her a lady saint. As Remelia makes her way back, she encounters a carriage and two men. One of them, with a sharp and calculating gaze, offers her a ride. Though the invitation feels more like a pragmatic arrangement than a gesture of kindness, the white-haired man quickly clarifies that they aren't trying to be nice. It's simply a waste of time to watch her walk back. Remelia accepts the ride with a knowing smile, thinking to herself that she's clearing these men's perceptions of her, just as effectively as she cleared the dungeon. Remelia reflects on the girl's words, a soft smile playing on her lips. She thinks of Emmy's version of Remelia, gentle, pure, and truly deserving of the title of saint. For a moment she allows herself to embody that kindness, but the villainess quickly brushes off the sentiment, telling herself she was simply in a good mood. She dismisses her act of kindness as a bit of unnecessary charity, refusing to let her heart soften too much. Meanwhile, in a distant desert city, a miracle occurs. After an eternity of drought, rain begins to pour from the sky. The citizens erupt in joy and disbelief, celebrating the sudden arrival of the water they so desperately needed to survive. The source of the miracle is revealed. Remelia standing before the colossal divine form of the dragon god. In a display of overwhelming power and diplomacy, she has managed to appease the celestial beast, bringing life back to the wasteland. The city's leader bows in deep gratitude, explaining that the dragon god's wrath had pushed them to the brink of total collapse. Remelia maintains her facade of humility, claiming she was merely fulfilling a divine duty, further cementing her image as a holy savior in the eyes of the people. In the streets, the tide of public opinion is turning. Commoners whisper about a refined former noblewoman who saves lives and refuses rewards, a woman supposedly guided by God. While some still recall the rumors of her rage over a lost fiancé, others argue that the Star Maiden was the real villain for stealing an engaged man. Remelia notes with satisfaction that the image of Emmy's Remelia is finally taking root among the people. With the acquisition of the fifth and final key from the Desert Kingdom, she has everything she needs to advance to the next stage. A few months have passed, and she is closer than ever to clearing this world. Her journey has been one of relentless heroism, from purging the world-destroying miasma and felling the succubus of the City of Flowers, to restoring maritime trade and wiping out monster dens at the border. Remelia has left no stone unturned. She is determined that Emmy's reputation will not carry a single stain. Now she is finally ready to make her next move. But first, she must stop by the guild near her village to establish a perfect alibi. It has been 3 days since she last visited her sanctuary, and she is eager to see how her people are faring. The moment she arrives, she is greeted by a swarm of joyful children. Their faces light up with pure adoration as they shout, "Welcome back," to their beloved Lady Remelia. She greets them with a gentle smile, her heart warming at their genuine affection. The children eagerly report their progress. New settlers are arriving, Old houses are being rebuilt, and they've even started attending school. They've mastered composting and are thriving under her guidance. But as they talk, one child leans in to whisper that there's a secret they've been keeping. Remelia pays a visit to Mr. Thorne, the village chief, a former merchant who was forced out of the capital due to the scrutiny surrounding his premium items. Thorne has found a new purpose here. Remelia observes with a smirk how well he has adapted to his role as the village's leader. Remelia expresses her sincere gratitude to Thorne for covering the village's expenses out of his own pocket when her funds ran low. Overwhelmed by her kindness, Thorne is moved to tears, stubbornly insisting it was merely a business investment to ensure the village's success. Mr. Thorne speaks with deep emotion about the children from the slums, who once had nothing but rags and hunger. Now they are the picture of perfect health, thriving in the sanctuary Remelia created. While she tells him she's simply doing what's right, her true motivation lies deeper. She is acting as Emmy would if she were here. Thorne offers his network of colleagues in the capital to assist Remelia with trade and intelligence, a deal she readily accepts. Every move she makes, even the simple act of distributing uniforms to avoid the chore of memorizing faces, is a calculated step toward her ultimate goal, making the happiness of Remelia the Villainess a reality for Emmy's sake. The village has become a paradise for these children, filled with laughter, play, and a sense of belonging. But behind their smiles lies a haunting memory of the days when they were nothing more than starving, hollow-eyed orphans, clinging to one another for survival. It all began when Thorne brought a group of children, ranging from ages 2 to 14, from the capital's slums to this remote estate. They stood before Remelia, small and fragile, unaware that their lives were about to change forever. When Remelia first introduced herself as the lady of the village, the children didn't see a savior. They saw another threat. Traumatized by a life of deprivation and cruelty, every fiber of their being was tense and wary, expecting the worst from the woman in black. Remelia realizes these children are more than just slum dwellers. They are refugees from the demon realm, fleeing a miasma far more lethal than the one in the human world. She scoffs at the Star Maiden, who views such unfortunate beings as mere props in her theatrical play of purification to maintain her image as a holy savior. Understanding their pain, Remelia doesn't ask for their blind faith. Instead, she offers a simple, honest pact. If they do something for her, she will always reward them. She begins this new relationship with the most basic of kindnesses, a warm, filling meal. To their utter disbelief, Remelia grants them a house of their own, telling them to use it as they see fit. When the children tentatively ask what they must do in return, Remelia simply tells them she demands nothing for their shelter. For the first time in their lives, they are given a home without a price. Remelia establishes a simple, honest system for the children. In exchange for helping cultivate the fields, they are guaranteed a meal every single day. It's a small start, but it gives them a sense of purpose and the security of a full stomach. While managing the estate's logistics with Mr. Thorne, Remelia discusses the necessary supplies to keep the village growing. She mentions that the children are slowly adjusting to their new lives, but their peace is suddenly shattered when the door bursts open in a panic. The children rush in, desperate and tearful, carrying the youngest among them who is gripped by a relentless fever. Remelia immediately attempts to use healing magic, but to her shock, the spell has no effect on the suffering child. Remelia quickly realizes the problem. The child's demon physiology is fundamentally different from a human's, making standard magic ineffective. As she contemplates how to adapt her spells, the children break down, pleading with her to save their little brother. The eldest boy reveals the heartbreaking reason for his silence. He was terrified that asking for help would make the sick child seem like a nuisance, or good for nothing. Haunted by a past where they were called evil devils and hunted, he feared that one mistake would cost them the only sanctuary they've ever known. Overwhelmed by guilt and fear, the boy wails an apology, begging for forgiveness for being bad. The other children join in, desperate and terrified that they might all be thrown out because of the illness, until Remelia firmly tells them that's enough. Looking at the trembling children, Remelia doesn't show anger, but a deep understanding. She acknowledges how terrifying it must have been to rely on a human for help, and tells them that the courage they showed by coming to her is something she will always reward. Remelia declares it her duty to protect her precious subjects, and thanks them for trusting her. After sending the healthy children home to prevent infection, she secures a specialized medicine from Mr. Thorne, who admits that he finally sees she is not just another human with empty promises, but a true lifesaver. Pulling the youngest child was the turning point. Now, the demon children place their absolute trust in Remelia. These children, once cast out of orphanages for their non-human traits, have finally found a home. To ensure the village's future, Remelia is attracting skilled builders and farmers, while developing unique products powered by demon magic. Bringing to life ideas that Emi had once envisioned. With the village stabilizing, Remelia prepares to depart, but her mind is on the bigger picture. While the rest of humanity remains ignorant of the vast number of demon folk living in unexplored realms, Remelia plans to turn this knowledge into a strategic advantage, aiming to make her territory more prosperous than the royal capital itself. But the children aren't ready to let her go, pleading for her to stay just for one more night. They proudly tell her they can now cook the meals she taught them. Remelia calls them a bothersome bunch, but her gaze is tender, her heart softening at their earnest request. Unable to resist their enthusiasm, Remelia decides to delay her departure until tomorrow. She acknowledges how hard the children have been working and agrees to share a meal with them, believing that food always tastes best when enjoyed together. The dinner is a moment of pure, unadulterated joy, with the children eating heartily. As Remelia tastes the food, she whispers a silent message to the dormant Amy, sharing the deliciousness of the moment. It is a stark contrast to the cold, betraying faces of the men who once tore her life apart. With a final wave to the children, Remelia leaves her sanctuary behind. The village, once a desolate estate, has blossomed into a peaceful haven, a testament to the new life she is building. Her journey leads her to a breathtaking new destination. Standing before a colossal ornate stone fortress carved into the mountains, Remelia finally arrives at her goal. The Cavern City, the ancestral land of the dwarves. As she walks through the streets, Remelia is mesmerized by the sight of a city entirely populated by demi-humans. While she had read about such places in books, seeing this cosmopolitan melting pot of different races in person is an experience far more vivid and wondrous than she ever imagined. While exploring the city, Remelia has a sudden, clumsy collision with a small girl. The encounter is abrupt, leaving both of them momentarily stunned by the impact. With quick reflexes, Remelia catches the girl in her arms to save her from a fall. She offers a polite apology, but behind her kind smile, Remelia's eyes sharpen. She has finally found exactly who she was looking for. The girl introduces herself as Sarah Steele, or simply Sarah, and thanks Remelia for her kindness. Remelia introduces herself in return, though she already knows the truth. She has just met the Dwarven princess. This is the kingdom of the dwarves, the legendary land of the smiths. It is a place of thunderous hammers and searing heat, where the legendary god of fire is said to reside. Energized by their meeting, Sarah enthusiastically leads Remelia through the breathtaking streets of the Cavern City. Remelia follows with a smile, taking in the awe-inspiring scale of the subterranean architecture. The two spend the day bonding over a shared love for weaponry and combat, finding a rare kinship in being women who know how to fight. During their time together, Sarah reveals a surprising secret. She is actually the second princess, who had slipped away from the palace just to play in town. Ara speaks of her older sister, the Holy Princess, noting that while she is distant and difficult for most nobles to reach, she can be generous to those in genuine need. Before parting, Remelia promises to return and share her thrilling stories of dungeon crawling with her new friend. Finally, Remelia arrives at the royal palace, admiring the majestic dwarven craftsmanship. As the attendants announce that the Holy Princess is awaiting her, Remelia smirks. Her strategy of befriending Sarah was a complete success, granting her an audience that would have otherwise been impossible. Remelia leans into her role, playing the part of the irresistible Remelia that Emmy would love. With a confident smirk, she prepares herself to tackle the final stage of this game, as she is escorted deep into the royal palace. She enters a magnificent chamber engulfed in celestial flames, where a powerful figure awaits on a throne. Remelia knows the stakes. To achieve her goals, she must first bring the god of fire to heel. The Holy Princess acknowledges the rumors of Remelia's saintly deeds, calling her an oracle who traverses the land to help others. Remelia leans into the lie, using her reputation to deflect suspicion and navigate the overwhelming magical pressure radiating from the deity. Cutting straight to the chase, Remelia reveals her true objective, the sacred armor of the god of fire. She warns of a looming apocalypse brought by beings from another world, claiming the armor is the only way to ensure the world's survival. Amused by such audacity, the Holy Princess asks if Remelia truly understands the power she seeks. The sacred armor is no mere piece of equipment. It is a weapon that defies the very divine judgment of the gods. Remelia's gaze turns icy as she declares her target. She doesn't seek to fight mere monsters, but the Lord of the Heavens and the Creator of the world himself, for the armor grants mortals the power to slay gods. The Holy Princess laughs at such lofty ambitions, but Remelia remains unfazed. She asserts that these gods are the root cause of the world-ending miasma, citing a forbidden history and a prophecy of doom that predates all known records. To prove her point, Remelia recounts the primordial age, when the heavens and earth were first divided. In those ancient days, gods ruled from above while humans, dwarves, and elves dwelled below, their realm separated from the demon realm by a vast, endless ocean. Remelia describes a time when the creator of the world would descend from the heavens to reveal himself to mankind, guiding the rise of early civilizations. Other gods followed suit, some gifting humanity with wisdom and talent to drive progress, while others brought only flood and calamity. Impressed by the depth of her knowledge, the Holy Princess admits that Remelia truly knows the ancient history of the earth. But the curiosity turns to a specific question. How is this divine history linked to the miasma, the creator, and the ruler of the heavens? Remelia reveals a dark secret. When gods wield power on earth, they accumulate a divine fatigue, a sediment that is the true essence of miasma. If this sediment builds up too much, it weighs them down, trapping them on the mortal plane. While most gods learn to avoid this by using priests, the creator remains languishing in the demon realm. The realm's suffocating miasma is the result of the creator exerting himself beyond the point of no return, a tragedy orchestrated by the Lord of the heavens. To combat this, the creator's daughter, the goddess of purification, was tasked with cleansing the sediment, until a single spark of conflict threatened to destroy everything. That spark was the Lord of the heavens' obsession. When the goddess of purification rejected his marriage proposal, he imprisoned her out of pure spite. Any other gods who dared to object were ruthlessly slaughtered by the Lord, who transformed into a tyrant, causing the divine influence on earth to wither away. Remelia explains that dungeons were originally created as quarantine zones to stop miasma from spreading to civilization, but it was only a temporary fix. Now, without the goddess to purify the land, the creator has ironically become the herald of mankind's doom, leaking miasma that spawns monsters and will eventually leave the world a frozen wasteland of ash. Determined to rewrite this fate, Remelia reveals her trump card. She has already gathered the keys that unlock the gateway to the heavens. She makes her final plea, demanding the sacred armor of the goddess of fire so that she may challenge the gods herself in the body of a mortal. The holy princess asks if she doesn't tremble in fear at the thought of defying the divine. But Remelia's eyes burn with a terrifying intensity. Compared to the excruciating nightmare of the one she loves suffering a terrible fate, slaughtering a god is absolutely nothing. The holy princess is genuinely impressed, admitting she's taken a liking to Remelia. She realizes that Remelia isn't just some naive girl playing the martyr, but someone with a resolve that reminds her of the legendary heroes of old. Moved by Remelia's determination, the holy princess gives her word to forge the greatest armor ever known. When Remelia reveals she has already prepared the necessary legendary materials, the deity is stunned, realizing that Remelia's divine revelations are far more than just jests. Faced with treasures of impossible value, the holy princess asks why Remelia would willingly give them up. Remelia's answer is simple. It is what Emi would have wanted. She believes such power is too dangerous for mortals and belongs with the goddess who created it, a sentiment that earns the holy princess's deepest respect. As a reward for her selfless spirit, the holy princess grants Remelia the divine protection of fire. In a flash of blinding light, Remelia is transformed, now clad in a magnificent rose-themed divine armor imbued with the power of purification. As the hammer falls and the armor is perfected, Remelia sends a silent, heartfelt thank you to the dormant Emi. With her new power secured, she prepares to leave the sanctuary of the forge. Remelia stands as a vision of divine strength, her new armor gleaming and her rapier ready. Even the attendants of the royal court can only gaze up in absolute awe at the legendary figure she has become. With the holy princess wishing her the fortunes of war, Remelia departs from the cavern city. She walks through fields of flowers, leaving the dwarven kingdom behind as she sets her sights on a far more dangerous horizon. Standing amidst a sea of blossoms, Remelia summons the keys to the heavens, their light swirling around her. With a cold, determined gaze, she declares her intent. For the sake of the world, it is time for the first of the two gods to disappear. Humming a serene tune, Remelia begins her ascent. She traverses a surreal fragmented landscape where nature and digital-like distortions collide, marking her transition from the mortal realm toward the heavens. Walking along floating platforms amidst a cosmic vortex, Remelia encounters a hissing, oppressive barrier. She reflects that while the game required a full party for this journey, her own strength and the purifying power of the sacred armor are all she needs to bypass the traps of the foolish god who tyrannizes the heavens. As she stands before a blinding light, Remelia acknowledges that this battle was designed for a group of friends. But she doesn't need them. She relies solely on herself, sending a silent thank you to Emi for the strength she now possesses. The path leads her to a monstrous sight, a colossal, black-winged creature wearing a distorted halo. Facing the overwhelming scale of the deity, Remelia remains unfazed, confident that she can now defeat even a god. The creature is caught completely off guard by the mortal's audacity. With a cold, effortless strike of her rapier, Remisia shatters the deity's defenses, greeting the evil god with a chillingly polite good day as she launches her attack. In a distorted memory, the creature reveals its past obsession with the goddess of purification. For centuries, it followed her through the skies, mesmerized by her grace and collecting every flower she left behind in its wake. That admiration curdled into a twisted desire for possession. Convinced that they must become one, the creature forcibly changed the goddess into a lotus to keep her forever, only for her to reject him in horror. Driven by a delusional logic, the creature believes the goddess rejected him only because the world is too filthy. Now, it seeks to wash away all existence and reset the world to a pure state, believing that only through total destruction will she finally love and praise him. Black-winged god screams in absolute agony, desperately pleading for the return of its heart. But Remelia has no intention of showing mercy to a tyrant who believes the world is his to cleanse. With a gaze full of cold contempt, Remelia shatters the deity's core in a single decisive strike. To her, there is no need for a reason to destroy such disgusting vermin. As the monster disintegrates into fragments of light, Remelia smiles triumphantly. She considers her victory a public service, having made the world just a little bit more beautiful by erasing the god's filth. From the ruins of the battle, the goddess of purification is finally liberated. Returning to her true form, the ethereal being floats peacefully, freed from the creature's twisted obsession. After forming an alliance with the goddess, whose true name is Renge, Remelia returns to the mortal realm. With only the creator remaining, she reflects on the Star Maiden, with indifference before preparing to head home. Meanwhile, Peanut Blanche is spiraling into a rage. Frustrated that her game strategies aren't raising her favorability with the princes and devastated by the disappearance of the premium shop, she becomes desperate to regain control. Playing the victim, Peanut manipulates Prince David with a fake story about a friend poisoned by illegal drugs from a back alley shop. David falls for the act, promising to use the Order of Knights to hunt down the shop owner, exactly as Peanut planned. But the tides are turning. A royal agent arrives before the Queen with a grave report, and the target of the investigation is none other than the Star Maiden herself, Peanut Blanche. Remelia's estate has blossomed into a thriving sanctuary. From the bustling vineyards and artisanal workshops to the grand stone bridge under construction, the once-forgotten land is now a beacon of industry and prosperity. Upon her return, Remelia is greeted with genuine warmth and joy by her people. Seeing the bridge she ordered nearing completion, she shares a moment of quiet satisfaction with the villagers who now look to her as their beloved leader. However, her homecoming is interrupted by the arrival of Sophia, a formidable warrior, and the Queen's personal bodyguard. Though they share a history from the student council, Remelia remains cautious, wondering what could possibly bring such a high-ranking knight to her remote village. In a move that leaves everyone breathless, Sophia drops to one knee and takes Remelia's hand. With absolute sincerity, she makes a shocking request. She wants to leave her royal duties behind and become Remelia's personal knight. Sophia's decision stems from a deep-seated doubt. When she first heard that the perfect Lady Remelia had been expelled for attempting to murder Pina, she found the claims absurd. The stories told by Prince David felt eerie and unnatural, prompting her to uncover the truth herself. After scrutinizing the evidence and traveling to the estate, which was supposed to be a barren wasteland, Sophia is stunned. Instead of a ruin, she finds a lush, developed paradise, a miracle achieved in just a few short months. Watching the laughter of the children and the abundance of the harvest, Sophia recalls the girl she knew at the academy. To her, Remelia was always a beautiful, sweet, and noble lady, far removed from the villainess the world now describes. But Sophia also remembers Remelia's hidden side, her overwhelming strength. During a past sparring match, Remelia had effortlessly defeated her, ending the fight by catching her in a bridal carry that left the stoic knight completely flustered. Remelia recalls the days of their training, where she would gently tease Sophia about her habit of overstepping during a lunge. Even then, the stoic knight found herself flustered by Remelia's effortless grace and skill. To Sophia, Remelia was more than just a peer. She was an inspiration. Whether it was magic, swordsmanship, or academics, Remelia was always the best, driving Sophia to push her own limits just to keep up with the woman she so deeply admired. Being the prosperous village Remelia built, Sophia realizes that the villainous rumors were lies. Moved by Remelia's selfless dedication to those abandoned by society, Sophia declares her absolute belief in her, regardless of her status, as a count's daughter or a royal knight. With a cheerful burst of energy, Sophia reveals she has already severed ties with her family and resigned as a knight to be here. Remelia is completely shocked by the extremity of the gesture, but Sophia is unfazed, having grown fed up with the corruption of the kingdom and the scum like Prince David. Having traveled the world with the Queen, Sophia has never seen a village as happy as this one. She chooses to dedicate her loyalty to a leader who truly cares for her people, a sentiment that leaves Remilia deeply touched. Remilia officially accepts Sophia as her knight, feeling reassured by her loyalty and the fact that Sophia sought the truth for herself. As the village children eavesdrop with starry eyes, Remilia secretly notes that she has gained a powerful pawn who knows the truth about Emmy's condemnation. Remilia offers Sophia room in her mansion and introduces her to the local shop run by the village chief. With the threat of Pina's premium items diminished, Remilia feels she can finally relax her guard and focus on the future. Returning to her home, Remilia is greeted by the village chief, who provides a report on the newly arrived human orphans and the progress of their new products. Hearing how the demon children took the initiative to welcome the human orphans, Remilia is heartened by the kindness growing within her sanctuary. Remilia ensures the government remains blind to the true scale of her estate's development, keeping officials satisfied with reports of small-scale agriculture. Meanwhile, Mr. Thorne reveals a chilling detail. His former shop in the capital was raided under the guise of an illegal drugs investigation, a trap set by the Star Maiden to seize him for her own use. A horror of Pina's plan is revealed. She intended to enslave Thorne in secret, forcing him to manufacture items for her. But Remilia sees an opportunity in this cruelty. By leaking the truth to Thorne's influential noble customers, she ensures that the very people Pina wants to charm will instead hold a deep, lasting grudge against her. Remilia is playing a master game, systematically stripping Pina of her items and her charm to isolate her from the male leads. By maintaining peace, she denies Pina the chance to adventure and forge the alliances she needs to win. Remilia's ultimate goal is clear. She will transform the name, Remilia, into that of a saint who saved the world, honoring the selfless spirit of the dormant Emi. Grateful for the intelligence, Remilia tells Mr. Thorne she wishes to repay him. While Thorne insists on the professional credibility of a merchant, Remilia reveals she has a specific request that only someone with his connections can fulfill. Thorne is bewildered when Remilia asks him to arrange a meeting, as he knows no one of great importance. But Remilia's eyes gleam with ambition as she reveals her target. She wants an audience with the ruler of the demon realm, the demon king himself. The request is so audacious it leaves Thorne speechless. However, Remilia holds the ultimate bargaining chip. She claims to have a solution for the frenzy, the ancient affliction that has tormented the demon folk for centuries. Intrigued and hopeful, Thorne is all too willing to help. A few days later, Remilia's gamble pays off, and an audience is secured. As she prepares to enter the heart of the demon realm, she reaffirms her vow to walk the path of a savior, a path she is certain the kind-hearted Emmy would have chosen. Using an expensive transfer device, Remilia teleports directly into the demon realm, where she is met by a surprised demon guide. As she is led toward the castle, she notices the crumbling walls and decaying halls, realizing that the Demon King's kingdom is in a state of dire disrepair. Remilia kneels before the Demon King, the atmosphere heavy with anticipation. As he commands her to raise her head, he reveals that he is well aware of the rumors, that this human girl might hold the key to solving the devastating frenzy. When Remilia finally looks up, she is momentarily breathless. The Demon King is a vision of haunting beauty, his piercing eyes demanding the truth. Stunned by his presence, Remilia quickly recovers her composure and asks for permission to speak. Remilia admits that while she doesn't have a complete cure, she does possess a solution. But as she speaks, the narrative shifts back 20 years, to a time of absolute terror, and a woman who remembers a desperate plea to her king. Memories are stained with blood and agony. The frenzy wasn't just a disease. It was a slow, wheezing descent into a nightmare, where the mind shattered and the body became a weapon of destruction. The horror reaches its peak as the affliction turns loved ones into monsters. In a blur of madness and blood, the frenzied victims slaughtered everything in their path, leaving behind nothing but corpses and shattered lives. It was a chaotic massacre, a whirlwind of violence where reason vanished. The frenzy stripped away everything that made them demon folk, leaving only a mindless, killing instinct that tore through the kingdom. This was the hour of doom. In a final, desperate act of love, the Demon King's sister teleported the last of the orphanage children to the human realm, while her brother stayed behind to hold back the tide of monsters, sacrificing his own peace to ensure their survival. Arriving in the human realm, the children found a world where the air was breathable and food was plentiful. To survive in a land that feared them, they donned native clothing to hide their horns and ears, choosing a life of secrecy over the certain death that awaited them in the demon realm. In the desolate slums of the human realm, a veiled woman struggles to provide for the demon refugees, directing the children to gather plants for survival. Exhausted from using ancient teleportation magic to bring them here, she barely has the strength to move, needing every moment to recoup her dwindling energy. She explains the grim logic behind their exile. Those with the weakest magical power are the only ones who can survive in the human realm, as they look most like humans. While the frenzy strikes the weak first, sending them here buys them time and allows those with stronger powers back home a chance to find a cure. It was the only way to save as many lives as possible. The memories are haunted by those they lost. A kind man who fought to develop miasma-resistant crops, and a gentle woman who sacrificed her life to protect children from the man she loved. Their home had become a living hell, a place where the only way to survive was to kill the very friends and family they cherished. Overcome with grief, the woman weeps for the amazing people they couldn't save, feeling the crushing weight of royalty who failed their own people. But the true horror of the frenzy is only just beginning to be revealed. Once a demon is taken by the madness, they are driven by a single gruesome instinct. That instinct is to consume the flesh of those with magical powers until the predator themselves finally dies. In the blood-soaked aftermath of such attacks, the only mercy was the blade of the Demon King, who provided a final sane moment of peace for those he was forced to put down. Through her tears, the woman begs for the Demon King to be thanked for saving all their lives. She knows that very few possess the strength and the resolve to defeat a demon completely deranged by the frenzy, making the king's burden an impossible one. The Demon King's face is stained with the blood of his own kind, his eyes reflecting a depth of sorrow that few could imagine. While some called him heartless for his merciless blade, the truth was far more painful. He was the only one with the willpower to kill his brethren to stop their suffering, refused the easy excuse of doing it for the sake of the country, because to do so would be to diminish the weight of the lives he took. While others pretended to be pure and shifted the burden onto the strong, the Demon King carried the agony of every single death alone, weeping for every countryman he laid to rest. The veiled woman reflects on the profound impact of Remelia's spirit, recalling how she encouraged her to smile and embrace the life of a merchant. Despite the hardships, she is certain that Remelia is the only one capable of bringing relief to the Demon King's eternal suffering. As a merchant who has used a smile as a weapon for years, the woman recognizes a different kind of power in Remelia. Her smile isn't a mask, but a gleaming legendary sword. A force so radiant and convincing that it makes anyone want to believe in her without a single doubt. Remelia possesses an instinctive magnetism, drawing people to her as if she were the safest harbor in a storm. The woman believes this strength comes from an absolute faith in something powerful, something that could finally deliver the demon folk from their living hell. While the Demon King's strength is born from a crushing sense of responsibility, Remelia's power is different. She offers a hope that transcends mere duty, promising a future where all demons can be saved, all while wearing a gentle smile on her face. Remelia reveals a dark secret of the frenzy. While it causes madness, it can also trigger the blooming of special magical abilities, such as teleportation. She further shocks the king by revealing she knows the truth about the first prince of her homeland, that he is actually the son of a demon descendant. The Demon King is outraged, asking if she simply suggests he abandon his homeland and the 30,000 people still suffering there. Remelia counters by questioning if a life spent eating humans to maintain sanity is truly living. Challenging the ruthless cycle of slaughter, the king felt forced to embrace. Remelia speaks of a hidden tragedy. The Demon King's own brother, who was the first to offer himself as a sacrifice should the king ever lose his sanity. She knows that for the Demon King, a ticking clock is running, a time limit that will eventually pass. The memory culminates in a haunting image of blood and loss. The Demon King's devotion to his family was absolute, but the frenzy is a cruel enemy that turns the most precious bonds into a nightmare of gore and grief. Fragmented images of blood and madness flash by the brutal reality of the frenzy that tore families apart. As the Demon King wails in eternal lament over the brother he was forced to kill with his own hands, the dormant Emmy, connected to his grief, begins to cry in her sleep. Tossing and turning in a nightmare, Emmy weeps for the suffering of the demons, wishing they could all simply be happy. But within the depths of her consciousness, Remelia awakens with a serene, determined smile, promising the grieving girl, "Leave it to me, Emmy." Back in the present, the Demon King describes the slow death of his kingdom, where crops fail and his people barely survive. When Remelia interrupts to offer a correction regarding the miasma causing the frenzy, the king is outraged, demanding to know how a mere human girl could possibly have the answer to save his realm. The atmosphere turns heavy as the Demon King demands to know what sacrifice Remelia is willing to offer in exchange for her help. Remelia's expression is a haunting blend of confidence and sorrow as she delivers a shocking answer. "It's the world." Clad in her divine armor, Remelia clarifies her bold claim. While the thought of destruction lingers, her true intent is clear. She has come to save the world from the very cycle of agony that has plagued the demon folk for centuries. The Demon King is shaken to his core, His magical eyes, capable of spotting any lie, find absolutely no falsehood in her words. Stunned by her absolute conviction, he asks her exactly how she plans to achieve such an impossible feat. Remelia reveals a devastating truth. The miasma isn't a natural phenomenon but oozes from the creator of the world, trapped at the heart of the demon realm. She warns that if left unchecked, this corruption will not only destroy the demons but choke the entire world, ending all life on Earth. Remelia proposes a daring solution, bringing the goddess of purification, Renge, to the creator's shrine to restore the natural order. When a bewildered demon king asks how a human could possibly know these secrets, Remelia reveals her truth. She possesses the memories of the girl who was destined to save the world. Remelia reveals the secret of her strength. She possesses memories of a future that hasn't yet happened. Using this knowledge, she trained herself and defeated the Lord of the Heavens, all for the sake of Emi, the world's only salvation. However, she admits that the interference of a malicious person, Pina, has caused the current timeline to diverge from those memories. The Demon King is shaken by the sheer scale of her plan. To purify the world, Remelia intends to destroy the body of the creator himself. The king warns her of the catastrophic risks, reminding her that failure could lead to a fate of suffering far worse than death. But Remelia is undeterred. No divine decree or threat of eternal torment can shake her resolve, for her faith in Emi's destiny to save the world is the most powerful force she knows. With her goal clear, Remelia beseeches the Demon King to loan her the key to the creator's shrine. But the king hesitates, reminding her that the key is a national treasure, not a tool to be handed out lightly. Frustrated, Remelia wonders why he would still doubt her after everything she's revealed. Just as the tension reaches its peak, the Demon King makes a surprising decision. Stepping forward with a stern gaze, he delivers an unexpected answer. "I'll come with you." The declaration leaves Remelia completely stunned. Beside them, Klimt erupts in shock, unable to believe that the king would actually agree to such a risky venture. The demon tells Klimt to calm down, explaining that while he doesn't fully trust Remelia, he must keep a close eye on her. Meanwhile, Remelia secretly welcomes the alliance, knowing that the Demon King's strength will be invaluable for the cumbersome task of purifying the creator's heart. A tentative alliance is forged with a firm handshake. Though the Demon King continues to glare at her with suspicion, Remelia offers a serene smile, her gratitude for his help being entirely genuine. Remelia is shown to her guest room, where she is told to feel free to use anything she likes. After thanking the attendant, she is left alone, privately noting that having a room is far better than camping in the wilderness, though she shudders to think about what the short-staffed castle plans to serve for dinner. In the kitchen, the Demon King's brother Klimt is seen struggling to prepare a meager meal with limited ingredients. Remelia arrives and notices the lack of kitchen staff, to which Klimt explains that the servants were sent away on official duties to avoid the awkwardness of having a human guest in the castle. Remelia realizes that the demons likely view her as a harmless human girl who doesn't require guards. With a playful smile, she reveals she's overprepared and uses her coordinates to summon crates of fresh produce and preserved foods directly from her own fief, leaving Klimt completely bewildered. Offering the bounty as a token of their new friendship, Remelia provides a wealth of fresh vegetables, dried meat, and fish. While Klimt is deeply grateful, Remelia thoughtfully offers to act as a food taster, knowing that the demons might be wary of human poisons, even if such toxins wouldn't actually work on them. As the meal is served, the Demon King looks upon the feast with suspicion, half wondering if this is his last meal. However, as he takes a bite, the sheer quality of the food begins to break through his guard. The Demon King admits that the food is good, and Klimt explains that everything came from the land Remelia governs. He realizes that this meal is a gift from the children who escaped the demon realm, and for the first time in a long time, the king tastes something truly delicious. Alone in her room, Remelia reflects on the mechanics of the game. She knows that in the creator's dungeon, a purify action must be taken every 5 turns to prevent party members from succumbing to the frenzy. Since demons cannot use purification magic, she realizes she must be the one to protect the Demon King tomorrow. Remelia decides to keep this detail a secret for now, fearing the Demon King would bitterly curse himself if he knew a human's magic could have prevented centuries of suffering. She intends to wait until Renge has purified the creator, ensuring the demons believe they truly exhausted every option in their long history of struggle. Deep within her heart, Remelia makes a silent vow to safeguard the spirit of the Demon King, Angel, who was forced into ruthlessness to protect his own people. She knows this isn't just her own desire, but the kind of selfless compassion Emi would have shown. The time for talk is over. Remelia and the Demon King make their way through the desolate halls of the castle, their footsteps echoing as they approach the gateway to the final confrontation. As they move, Remelia applies her purification magic to the Demon King, who is stunned to feel his body become oddly lighter. She explains that this magic is the only way to mitigate the crushing weight of divine judgment, the very power that led to her receiving divine revelations. The plan is set. Remilia will act as the shield, using her purification to keep the king safe while he leads the attack. Once the creator's corrupted body is destroyed, she will summon the goddess Renge to purify the heart. Remilia is momentarily caught off guard when she notices a rare faint smile on the king's face. The demon king reflects on the irony of the situation, hardly believing he would one day fight side by side with a human girl to save the entire world. In response, Remilia reveals a forgotten truth, that demons and humans were once actually one and the same. He explains that the demon race evolved from humans who possessed a natural resistance to the miasma of the land, much like animals developing thicker fur to survive the cold. From the existence of half-demons to the way humans mutate into monsters when exposed to miasma, the evidence is clear. Their bodies are not as different as they believe. With a gaze full of hope, Remilia declares her belief that humans and demons can work together to create a peaceful world. To her, the only real difference between them is simply where they were born. They finally arrive before the towering, imposing doors of the shrine. As Remilia asks if he is ready to begin, the demon king looks at her and makes a surprising request. "Call me Angel." Remilia is momentarily stunned by the request, but the demon king simply clarifies, "That's my name." It is a small, personal detail that bridges the gap between the ruthless ruler and the person he once was. Remilia realizes that the demon king is beginning to see through her mask, noticing the echoes of Emmy's spirit, the girl who strives to save the world without reward, even while branded a villain. Seeing an opportunity, Remilia decides to use this shift in perception to her advantage. She resolves to embody the oblivious savior, a girl so consumed by her mission to save the world that she remains blind to the blossoming feelings of those around her. Since this perfectly matches Emmy's true nature, Remilia knows this performance won't be a lie. The pair steps into the heart of the shrine, entering a surreal, oppressive void where the boundaries of reality seem to blur. The atmosphere is heavy with a suffocating darkness as they venture deeper into the unknown. They arrive in a vast limestone cavern, filled with jagged formations and eerie lights. However, Remilia quickly notices a discrepancy. Unlike the game memories she relies on, the area is unexpectedly empty, suggesting that reality is diverging from the script. Sensing danger, Angel manifests a devastating scythe from the shadows. Remilia observes his tactical precision, noting that in a cave filled with obstacles, channeling magic into a single, powerful weapon is the most effective way to neutralize threats. The tension mounts as they realize the creator isn't where he should be. Because the entire cavern is saturated with the god's energy, it's impossible to pinpoint his exact location, forcing them to wait cautiously for the entity to come to them. Suddenly, the horror reveals itself. Looming over Remilia is the creator of the world, a grotesque, cosmic entity with a singular piercing eye and dripping, pod-like appendages that fill the void. In the face of this divine nightmare, Remilia looks impossibly small. Suddenly, the silence is shattered as a devastating force strikes. Angel screams Remilia's name, lunging forward in a desperate attempt to shield her from the onslaught. Despite the impact, Remilia refuses to be a mere victim. Even as she is thrown back, her grip on her sword remains firm, her eyes sharp and focused as she fights to regain her footing. With a roar of defiance, Angel unleashes his shadow scythe, striking at the grotesque entity. The battle for survival begins in earnest as the Demon King takes the lead in the offensive. In the heat of combat, a mutual respect blossoms. Angel is stunned by Remilia's inhuman reflexes, while Remilia realizes that her suspicions were groundless. The Demon King's resolve before his god is absolute and unwavering, but the horror is only beginning. The creator's surreal and terrifying form looms over them, its singular eye watching their every move, sending a chill of dread through both Remilia and Angel. A new wave of attacks rains down. Remilia calculates the risk, deciding the strikes aren't strong enough to require her defensive magic, but she remains tense, wondering how Angel will handle the pressure. Angel deftly uses his shadow magic as a shield, blocking the incoming blows. However, as the dust settles, Remilia and Angel notice something sinister. Mysterious seeds are beginning to sprout from the cavern floor. In a flash, the seeds erupt into lethal vine-like tentacles, catching Angel completely off guard. As he struggles to react, he realizes with a jolt of panic that he was far too careless. Remilia seizes the moment, shouting for Angel to keep the path open and focus his full strength on the main body. Once the opening is made, she knows the final purification can begin, all while she maintains the facade of Amy's selfless mask. As the battle rages, Angel is struck by a feeling he hasn't known in ages. For the first time in countless years, he isn't fighting alone. He is finally relying on someone, and someone is relying on him. Clad in her sacred armor, Remilia stands her ground with unwavering confidence. A massive impact rocks the cavern, and she realizes with a surge of adrenaline that her strike actually managed to pierce the god's defenses. With a precise and lethal blow, Remilia strikes the creator's massive eye. Even as the divine entity bleeds, it mocks her, claiming it was only hurt a little bit. But the crack in its armor has been made. The scale of the conflict is staggering. Remilia looks like a mere speck against the swirling chaos and the grotesque, looming form of the creator. Yet she remains the anchor in the center of the storm. "Now, your majesty," Remilia screams the signal. Angel steps forward, his scythe poised for the killing blow, addressing the fallen god with a mixture of reverence and resolve. "Creator of the world, my lord." In a haunting revelation, the creator's voice echoes through the void. The god recognizes the profound love Angel holds for all living things, demons, humans, and the entire world, and begs for a merciful end to its suffering. With one final, decisive strike, Angel delivers the blow of mercy. The world seems to shatter into abstract fragments of light and shadow as the divine entity is finally brought down. With a final, thunderous strike, Angel unleashes everything. He declares his resolve to protect the world from the very god who created it, refusing to let this land be destroyed. As the dust settles, Remilia lets out a small, secret giggle. She is impressed by Angel's skill, but she's even more pleased that her act of desperation worked, allowing her to keep her true capabilities hidden. The creator's grotesque form is shattered, its defense is broken. Looking at the wreckage, Angel reflects on the brutality of the clash, admitting that he hadn't expected to survive the fight, even in victory. Standing side by side amidst the ruins, Angel feels a newfound sense of strength. He realizes that the burden of saving the world is far lighter when you have a trusted ally fighting by your side. Now comes the final step. Remilia reveals a compressed sphere of purifying flame, explaining that this is the only way to reach the creator's heart. She instructs Angel to flip the creature on its back so she can insert the flame into its stomach. With cold, focused precision, Remilia slices open the belly of the god. To Angel, the act is profane and grotesque, yet he is captivated by her unwavering composure even in the face of such a grisly task. The purifying flame is plunged into the wound, erupting in a blinding radiance. The light surges through the entity, burning away the miasma and corruption from the inside out. As the light fades and the creator is finally laid to rest, Remilia stands in a silent, prayerful pose. Despite the violence of the battle, in Angel's eyes, she still looks like the very embodiment of a saint. In a moment of profound solemnity, Angel bows his head in prayer. He offers his sincerest gratitude to the Creator for the blessings that allowed the demon race to exist, while praying that the god may finally be free from the blight of the miasma and the unspeakable suffering he endured. With the battle won, Remilia holds the dark essence of the Creator in her palm. She playfully tells Angel to tell the world how gallantly Emi's Remilia fought to protect them, while softly thanking him for fighting by her side. In return, the Demon King simply reaffirms his name. It's Angel. Remilia is momentarily stunned, but Angel explains that it was only natural for him to fight for the sake of his people. He insists that he should be the one thanking her, looking at her with a gentle, sincere expression as he asks for the chance to say it properly. With a warm, genuine smile and eyes closed in peace, Angel delivers a simple yet heartfelt thank you. Remilia can only watch, her eyes wide as she absorbs the sincerity of his words. A soft smile graces Remilia's lips as she returns the sentiment. Likewise, "You're very welcome, Angel," she replies, the tension of the battle finally replaced by a quiet mutual understanding. Internally, Remilia reflects on her identity, reminding herself that as sees Remilia, this kindness is simply a matter of course. With the emotional moment concluded, she shifts her focus back to the task at hand. Preparing for the final summoning, Remilia begins the ritual, channeling her magic to create a brilliant light that manifests as a glowing lotus flower floating upon the cavern's waters. Angel watches in silence as the catalyst for the final purification takes shape. From the light emerges the ethereal and towering figure of the goddess of purification, Renge. As Remilia presents the essence of the creator to her, Renge looks down upon the small dark sphere with a gaze of deep pity, whispering, "Ah, Father, you poor thing." Renge treats the small, purified essence of the creator with motherly affection, encouraging him to grow strong and big once again. She explains that it was the unwavering faith of the demons that allowed this resurrection, offering her sincerest gratitude to Angel for his part in this miracle. Angel speaks of the Creator's legendary mercy, how he once diverted falling stars and cleared poisonous mists to protect the demons from countless dangers. But Renge is haunted by her own failure. She asks why Angel doesn't hate her for the unimaginable pain caused by her inability to save the god. Dark history is revealed. As the gods fell, the demons who loved them suffered a mirroring descent into despair. The Lord of the Heavens had fueled this chaos by imprisoning Renge and slaughtering other deities. Renge admits that without Remilia's strength to slay that tyrant, this peace would have remained impossible. As a mark of her gratitude and recognition, Renge bestows a divine honor upon Remelia, officially granting her the title of Purification Maiden. On the outside, Remelia plays the part of the humble, overwhelmed maiden, but internally she's delighted, realizing she's just stolen the very title intended for the Star Maiden. Angel, however, sees right through her act, telling her that no other title could possibly suit her better. Despite her internal complaints about wearing the Star Maiden's filthy hand-me-downs, Remelia continues her performance. With the miasma and the frenzy finally extinguished, a long-awaited, peaceful spring begins to blossom across the once-decaying demon realm. The heavy burden of the past is gone. Remelia and Angel race across the open plains, leaping with a newfound lightness in their steps. Angel is overwhelmed with joy, marveling at the crystal-clear sky and the freedom filling his lungs. A sudden trip sends Angel face first into the dirt, earning him a fit of laughter from Remelia. But as he pushes himself up, he discovers something miraculous. Flowers blooming in a way he's never seen before. Together they venture further, eager to witness the rebirth of their world. Suddenly, the mood shifts to chaotic comedy as a massive worm-like creature lunges at them. Remelia and Angel are sent flying by the impact, but Remelia quickly recovers, her blade flashing as she strikes back with precision. Acha! Remelia successfully skewers the beast, but she doesn't have time to celebrate before she starts scolding Angel. She can't believe he actually threw his sword away, leaving him completely weaponless and panicking in total terror. The creature is sliced clean in half. But the victory is short-lived as chaos erupts around them. Clinging to each other for dear life, Angel lets out another piercing scream as the remnants of the monster explode in a flurry of debris. Confusion reigns as the creature begins to burn away into nothingness. Angel is completely bewildered by the turn of events, wondering what on earth is happening, until the dust finally settles, and Remelia softly asks if he's all right. Returning to their regal poise, Remelia and Angel are spotted by a group of demon citizens. The people are stunned to see their king, and the shock only grows when they realize he is accompanied by a stunningly beautiful human woman. As they journey through the landscape, Angel notes that while the source is gone, traces of miasma still linger in the air. Remelia reflects on her new role as the Purification Maiden, admitting that while she didn't expect Angel to insist on accompanying her, his knowledge of the land is proving invaluable. Upon reaching a village, they find the people ecstatic. News of the miasma's defeat has spread like wildfire via magical communication. The demons shower Remelia with gratitude, hailing her as the god-guided savior of their kingdom, while Angel watches the children with a rare, soft smile, amazed by their newfound energy. Angel looks upon the young warriors in training, and hopes for a future where every child can live in peace, wishing for his displaced people to finally return home. Meanwhile, Remelia checks in with Mr. Thorne via magic mirror, leaving the shopkeeper absolutely floored and slightly outraged that she managed to solve the entire crisis in just a few days. A secret is kept from Thorne and the other demons. The truth that the creator was the source of the miasma. To protect the creator's recovery, which relies on the faith of the demons, they've told a convenient lie, that all their suffering was the fault of a mysterious evil god, defeated by the demon king and a certain human girl. Remelia and Angel arrive at a site still heavily stained with miasma. With a focused effort, Remelia unleashes her purification magic, sending a brilliant wave of light to cleanse the corrupted land. Witnessing her power and kindness, Angel is overwhelmed with gratitude. As the Demon King, he feels a deep debt to her and asks how he can ever possibly repay her for everything she's done. Remelia plays the part of the humble savior, claiming she was merely following a higher calling. However, Angel insists on doing something for her personally, prompting Remelia to reveal that she does in fact have one request. Her question is precise and strategic. She wants to know if there is a way to remove the false feelings caused by a love potion. She reveals her goal: to expose the wicked scheme of the person who framed and exiled her. Remelia knows that demon expertise would be far more effective than human medicine, so she puts on a carefully crafted meek and pensive look to tug at Angel's heartstrings. The Demon King finds himself completely thrown off by her sudden change in demeanor. But then, Remelia delivers a pointed question, looking Angel straight in the eye. "Do you still have feelings for that man called Willard?" Angel's answer is a firm no. He reflects that while he might have forgiven actual brainwashing, the thought of the trust they've built being discarded because of a potion is what truly hurts him. Remelia watches him, a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips. Angel's words of praise only make Remelia snort in amusement. While he sees her as generous, her internal monologue reveals a far darker truth. She doesn't consider her mercy as kindness, but as a strategic choice to ensure that those who hurt Emmy suffer a lifetime of agony rather than a quick death. Turning back to the matter at hand, Remelia shares a crucial piece of information from Emmy's memories about an item capable of manipulating demon emotions. She urges Angel to prohibit the ingredients for such a potion immediately, prioritizing the long-term health of his people over short-term profits. As Remelia effectively cuts off the only way for Pina to manipulate demons through potions, she looks on with a predatory satisfaction. In a world of luxury and greed, Pina has just lost her most powerful weapon for making fools out of the demon race. One final step in Remelia's grand design. She proposes a project to Angel that would not only help recover lost income but also allow her to manage her own territory and purify the demon realm simultaneously. Her plan is as ambitious as it is revolutionary: the construction of a teleportation gate. By connecting her land to the demon realm, she intends to open a world-first path between humans and demons, all while keeping her eyes fixed on the filthy vermin who dared to hurt Emmy. With a serene smile and an outstretched hand, Remelia masks her thirst for vengeance behind a diplomatic offer. "Shall we sign a trade deal between our people?" she asks, though her heart is set on the hour of doom she is bringing upon her enemies. The scene shifts to the imposing spires of the Demon King's castle. Inside, Remelia is greeted by a woman named Mizari, who expresses her pleasure in finally meeting the legendary savior of the realm. The two women exchange polite formalities, agreeing to address each other by their names. In a gesture of deep respect, Mizari bows low before Remelia, offering her sincerest gratitude for saving their homeland and its people. Remelia plays the part of the modest savior, claiming she only did what anyone would. Her humility strikes a deep chord with Mizari, who is so overwhelmed with emotion that she can barely contain her tears of joy. Unable to hold back her gratitude, Mizari asks if she may hug Remelia. As she embraces her, Remelia maintains a sweet exterior, though internally she's smugly pleased, knowing she is acting perfectly Emmy-like to keep the demons firmly in her palm. With the emotional groundwork laid, Remelia seamlessly pivots to business. She proposes the construction of a teleportation gate to facilitate trade between the realms, a project so massive and ambitious that Mizari feels completely out of her depth. Remelia explains the genius of her plan. Unlike teleportation magic, which is mana-draining and limited to a few specialists, a teleportation gate would allow people and goods to pass freely without limitation. The demons are captivated by the sheer possibility of such a feat. The secret lies in fusing demon teleportation magic with human summoning magic. While Mizari finds the idea of bringing two worlds together beautiful, Remelia recalls a dark irony. The Remelia of the original game used this same forbidden summoning magic to drag Angel into the human realm to wreak havoc. When Angel asks how such a fusion is even possible, Remelia reveals her trump card: a chest brimming with legendary materials and a complete construction manual. Having used Emmy's memories to gather everything in advance, she leaves the demons absolutely stunned by her terrifying level of preparation. From unicorn horns to dragon hearts, the list of required materials is staggering. Though the technical jargon leaves Mizari bewildered, she agrees to help build the gate on the demon side. While Angel eagerly asks how he can contribute to the project, Remelia efficiently delegates the work, tasking Mizari with surveying the land's resources and Angel with overseeing the trade goods. With an assistant on the way and Thorn handling the exchange, Remelia's grand vision for a cross-realm empire is officially in motion. Remelia reveals a staggering figure: 5,000 tons of food and wheat, enough to feed the entire demon population of 30,000 for over a year. Angel and Mizari are left speechless, wondering how a small village in an undeveloped area could possibly produce such wealth, but Remelia simply credits the demons who sought refuge in her village. The secret to her success is an agricultural revolution powered by mana. By using the magical abilities of demons to create high-grade compost, Remelia has boosted crop yields by 30%, turning her territory into an economic powerhouse. Now, she plans to buy the surplus and export it in bulk to the demon realm the moment the gate opens. Overcome with emotion, Mizari praises Remelia's tireless efforts. She reflects on the heartbreaking sight of children who once struggled to survive in the shadows, now grown and empowered to help their country thrive. The memory of their struggle lingers, a time when the frenzy turned their home into a living hell. Those with strong magic fought to buy time, trading potions and supplies in a desperate bid to find a cure and save their families from a fate worse than death. In the eyes of these displaced people, Remelia is more than just an ally. She is their savior. As Angel and Mizari look on with deep respect, Remelia wears a soft, knowing smile, fully aware of the loyalty she has cultivated. Returning to the logistics, Remelia decides the gate will be built near the bridge. Mizari realizes that Remelia had intentionally deceived the government, claiming the bridge was for local agriculture, just to mask its true scale. It was designed from the start to accommodate lanes of heavy trade wagons. But as she brings up a certain promise to Mr. Thorn, the mood shifts. As Thorn and the others look on in confusion, Remelia strikes a dramatic pose, recalling the words she spoke when they first met. With a captivating confidence, she repeats her offer: the chance to work in peace and live like kings within her village. The demons are reminded of the day their lives changed, but Remelia's vision goes far beyond mere comfort. Her endgame is geopolitical. By building this secret economic empire, she will force the human world to recognize the demon kingdom as equals if they ever wish to sign a trade deal. Angel expresses doubt, questioning if a human country would ever truly trust a nation of demons that seemingly appeared out of nowhere. He warns that humans naturally view all demons as monsters, but Remelia remains unfazed, proposing a strategic start. Small-scale trade involving only her village. Remelia explains her psychological game. Humans fear the unknown, but their perceptions are easily swayed by personal benefit. By establishing her village as the sole hub for superior novel goods, she will make the world rely on them first. Only then will she reveal that these wonders were created by demons, fundamentally shifting the world's perception of their race. The plan deepens as Remelia intends to leverage Thorn's former noble customers, those who already harbor grudges against the Star Maiden, to crush any potential rivals. With a confident smile, she knows that once this cultural and economic exchange is absolute, even the king himself will be forced to reach out to her. Angel, Mizari, and the other demons are momentarily stunned by the sheer scale of her ambition. However, Mizari eventually breaks the silence with a laugh, noting that compared to defeating a god and purifying an entire realm of miasma, managing some trade deals sounds like the easiest thing in the world. Remelia agrees with a playful smile, admitting that compared to enduring hundreds of years of darkness, this is indeed nothing. The demons look on, their expressions shifting from shock to a shared sense of awe and amusement at her terrifyingly casual attitude toward world domination. In a moment of cold calculation, Remelia's internal monologue reveals her true intent. She views the demons' lack of self-worth as an opportunity, vowing to make full use of them to create a monopoly on trade that will leave all of humanity utterly reliant on the demon kingdom, and her as the one holding the reins. Angel notices the intensity in her gaze and asks if she's truly that looking forward to this project. Remelia closes her eyes with a serene smile, answering that if the trade succeeds, she will be one step closer to her ultimate dream. When Angel asks what that dream is, Remelia reveals her heart's true desire, creating a world where someone with a kind heart can live in peace. As she speaks of Emi, everything clicks for Angel. He finally understands that her quest for power is the only way to truly save the world for the girl she protects. In the heart of the capital, Pina and her companions enjoy a leisurely stroll through the city's elegant streets. Their conversation light as they plan their next stop, at a boutique shoe shop around the corner. Their peaceful outing is abruptly interrupted when they stumble upon a scene of absolute chaos. A desperate crowd has gathered, with people shouting and fighting tooth and nail, just to secure a spot in a food line. Confused by the violence on a main city street, the girls are approached by a guard, who explains that food is being distributed to the poor. A charitable plan approved by the royal family, and spearheaded by a certain influential lady. That lady is none other than Pina. With a bright, innocent smile and a gentle touch, she plays the part of the benevolent savior, basking in the public's praise as the Star Maiden performing acts of charity. Inside the palace, however, the mood is far more critical. The Queen questions Prince Willard about the exorbitant costs of the luxuries Pina indulges in. But Willard defends her, claiming her modern knowledge is essential for shaping the country's future. Willard reveals that Pina is eager to subjugate dungeons across the globe, though he has kept her confined to the palace for the sake of propriety. To justify her ambitions, Pina has warned of a coming calamity, claiming she must gather a select group of elites to avert it. The Queen remains skeptical, seeing no evidence of such a disaster. With a cold, piercing gaze, she asks Willard a simple yet pointed question. Where exactly is this saint of theirs at this very moment? The answer is right back on the streets, where the poor are cheering for the free nosh provided by their savior. Ina beams with joy as she serves her specially made risotto, perfectly maintaining her mask of holiness while the masses adore her. Behind her mask of kindness, Pina is reveling in the power she holds over the masses. She knows that as long as she feeds the commoners, they are like putty in her hands, and she plans to use this manufactured popularity to attract the boys from the game to the capital. Taking a brief respite, Pina is approached by a man in uniform who praises her selfless act of feeding the poor. He believes that meals prepared by the beloved Star Maiden bring untold benefits, completely unaware that Pina didn't cook a single bowl herself. Pina leans into the lie, claiming she cooked everything for the sake of everyone's happiness. The man, overwhelmed by her saintly nature, offers her a box filled with gems and money, confessing his own insecurities and desperation for her approval. With a calculated smile, Pina tells the man to hold out his hand. She presents him with a simple feather, framing it as a divine gift. She instructs him to pray to the feather every single day, whispering that she is only doing this because he is special. The man is completely entranced, his heart fluttering under her manipulation. While she preaches about the power of belief and prayers, Pina's internal monologue is dripping with contempt. She mocks the man as a little asshole, delighted that she has found a way to fill her wallet by exploiting the palace's own treasury officer. Meanwhile, Pina's divine knowledge is making waves in the government. The treasury officer reviews a report on rotational-style agriculture, a concept Pina introduced to prevent soil nutrient loss by alternating crops like wheat and beans. He explains the three-field system, rotational wheat, winter barley, and a fallow field for restoration, to a colleague. As they marvel at the efficiency of the method, the question remains: what exactly is Pina proposing to change next? The treasury officer is fully convinced by Pina's agricultural suggestions, explaining how livestock grazing turns fallow land into fertile soil. He believes that increasing the nation's food self-reliance will not only strengthen the country's foundation, but also silence the critics targeting him and Pina. When the topic of Pina's lavish shopping sprees comes up, the officer quickly dismisses the rumors of budget draining. He argues that as the nation's saint, it is vital for her to maintain a dignified appearance, attributing the public's backlash to a simple lack of understanding regarding her commoner roots. The conversation takes a darker turn as the officer mentions whispers that exiling the prince's sister, Remelia, was a mistake. Prince Willard reacts with immediate hostility, calling the idea nonsense and insisting that Remelia was given every chance to apologize before she threw it all away. Willard recalls the image of the sister he once thought was intelligent and kind, now replaced by a deep sense of disappointment. He believes her hateful side and jealousy made her a criminal, concluding that such a woman has no right to ever lead or nurture the country. Convinced of his own righteousness, Willard argues that keeping Remelia would have been a diplomatic disaster, potentially even sparking a war. He thanks Claude for his support and expresses a cold relief that the ties between Claude and his sister were severed, certain that his judgment was flawless. But while they bask in their delusions, a hidden observer listens in. From the shadows, Remelia erupts into a manic, hysterical laugh, her expression twisting into a mask of pure, vengeful glee as she hears their pathetic justifications. Remelia finds their modern reforms, the crop rotations and soup kitchens, absolutely repulsive. With a look of utter contempt, she mocks their futile efforts, viewing their attempts to play savior as nothing more than a joke. As she drops a spider into a jar with a chilling promise of what's to come, Remelia wonders how Sophia is faring in the demon realm. Far from the palace's toxicity, Sophia is shown in the rugged mountains of the demon world, full of energy and spirit as she prepares for the day ahead. In the solitude of her research room, Remelia meticulously examines treasures from the demon realm, from potato clovers to precious mana stones and ores. With her noble eye for quality, she knows these materials will be an economic goldmine once introduced to the human realm. But wealth is only a means to an end. As she gazes into a magical basin, Remelia's focus shifts to the false charges that ruined her life. She vows that it won't be long before the truth is revealed, all for the sake of the dormant Emi. Beneath her composed exterior lies a boiling ocean of hatred. In a moment of raw, unfiltered malice, Remelia reveals her true desire: to wrap her fingers around the throat of the filthy woman who stole everything from her. To achieve her revenge, Remelia seeks the aid of Angel. Visiting him in his study, she tells him there is a matter she wishes to discuss in earnest, and the Demon King is more than happy to lend his support. Remelia inquires about the existence of magics that can peer into another's memories, hoping to find a way to expose the lies. She questions if demon magic possesses capabilities that human magic lacks, specifically the power to interfere with a person's recollections. Angel warns her that while such magic exists, it is dangerous and could leave the target mentally crippled. Knowing that Emi would never stoop to such cruel methods, Remelia is hesitant, until Angel reveals that a far superior, safer alternative exists. He explains the intricate ritual of the album skill, using a bowl of water, precise coordinates provided by his spider familiars, and a mixture of hair and mana shards. By weighing the quality of the stone against the strength of their fates on the divine scales of time and fate, the past can be reconstructed. As Remelia pours the mana sand into the water, Angel explains that this magic doesn't target a person, but rather the memories of a specific location. Grateful for the solution, Remelia prepares to gather the evidence she needs, leaving Angel to wonder what she truly intends to do once the truth is in her hands. Reflecting on her isolation, Remelia acknowledges the harsh reality. She has been cast aside by her parents and stands alone in high society with no one to support her. Yet she remains undeterred, promising that she will personally prepare the stage for the truth to finally be revealed. Deeply moved by her strength, Angel makes a solemn vow. As the king, he pledges to enter the alliance and become the pillar of support Remelia needs, determined to be a man who can stand proudly by her side without ever bringing her shame. Through their connection, the heartbreaking echoes of Emmy's soul emerge. In a flurry of tears and regret, Emmy reveals how desperately she had tried to be a woman of worth, longing only to stand by those she loved without becoming a source of shame. In a rare moment of serenity, Remelia and Angel stand together beneath a vast open sky, the towering mountains witnessing their silent bond. It is a fleeting instance of peace, a shared smile amidst the storm of their lives. Overwhelmed with genuine happiness, Remelia thanks Angel for his unwavering support. Angel, though flustered and blushing, finds a profound sense of fulfillment in being in touch with Emmy's honest thoughts and feelings. The warmth of the moment is shattered as the album magic activates, pulling Remelia into a cold memory of the past. As she watches the scene unfold, her eyes widen in disgust at the sight of the woman who orchestrated her downfall, Pina. Playback reveals the chilling precision of Pina's manipulation. She is seen calculatingly fabricating a crime, admitting that while there are witnesses to her being hit, no one actually saw Remelia at the scene, a gap she intends to fill with lies. Pina's deception goes even deeper, as she produces a handkerchief she claims Remelia used to wipe her hand in disgust. By exploiting a man's desire for family advancement and coercing a lady-in-waiting, Pina meticulously constructs a web of false testimony to ensure Remelia's ruin. The playback reveals the depths of Pina's cunning. With a few well-placed words, she smooth-talks a witness into believing a lie, painting herself as the victim in a courtyard scene while Lord Rheinfons looks on, completely oblivious to the deception. Pina's performance is masterclass in manipulation. She produces a handkerchief with the Graupner crest as proof, and puts on a pathetic display of tears, claiming that as a former commoner, she was simply a target of Remelia's disdain. Fooled by the act, Lord Rheinfons is outraged and vows to file a formal complaint. However, Pina subtly steers his testimony, advising him to only state the truth they are sure of, the presence of the handkerchief, to make the accusation against a duke's daughter seem more credible. The lie is meticulously polished. Lord Rheinfons begins to fill in the gaps himself, attributing the incident to women's jealousy and claiming he might have seen blonde hair, making the fabrication feel organic. In the end, a grateful Pina hugs him, sealing their pact of lies. Back in the present, Remelia watches with cold detachment. She realizes the entire conspiracy was engineered at the Academy, noting that Pina's only true talent is her acting. Remelia systematically catalogs the 4 fabricated pieces of evidence used to frame her, from the hired guards to the forged letters. As she touches her collection of mana stones, Remelia thinks of the traitors, the maids, guards, and criminals who sold her out for Pina's favor. A dark smirk crosses her lips. She finds it incredibly satisfying that this very evidence will now bring judgment upon those who stole the happiness Emmy had chosen. The intensity in Remelia's gaze reaches a fever pitch. Every detail of the playback has fueled her resolve, turning her shock into a cold, calculating hunger for retribution. With a triumphant smile, Remelia concludes that witnessing these atrocities was well worth the disgust. She has uncovered more than just the truth. A trump card far more powerful than she expected has fallen right into her hand. The countryside estate is buzzing with activity. From the sprawling golden fields to the carefully organized crates of produce and hanging cured meats, the harvest has been an overwhelming success, signaling a new era of prosperity under Remelia's leadership. But Remelia isn't just focusing on wealth. She's investing in people. She guides a group of young demon trainees, teaching them to synchronize their consciousness with their staffs and channel mana into shards, transforming simple tools into extensions of their own bodies. The results are magical. With a single release of energy, bundles of grain soar through the air, landing perfectly in place. The trainees beam with pride, and Remelia watches over them with a satisfied, knowing smile. 2 months have passed since Remelia began gathering evidence in secret. With the infrastructure and education of her estate now thriving, she turns her attention to the next phase of her plan, expanding her commercial empire by creating high-end luxury lines for the nobility and intentionally manipulating scarcity to drive up demand. Her strategic planning is interrupted when Mr. Thorne rushes in, breathless and panicking. He delivers a shocking report that halts everything. Sophia has collapsed in the demon realm. The news leaves Remelia momentarily speechless, her expression hardening into one of deep concern. Nearby, a woman continues to eat calmly, seemingly oblivious to the sudden tension filling the room. Remelia immediately travels to the demon realm to offer her purification magic. There, she finds Sophia recovering in bed, who explains that she had given her protective charm to someone suffering from miasma deep in the mountains, leaving herself vulnerable. Klimt reveals that Sophia collapsed after a battle with a monster, but is now recovering thanks to Lillian's fruit. Intrigued by this fruit, which doesn't exist in the human world or Emmy's memories, Remelia learns it possesses the incredible ability to restore a body to its original state. Remelia studies the Lilin's fruit, noting that unlike standard potions or purification magic, it doesn't heal directly. Instead, it consumes the user's own mana to strengthen their natural ability to self-heal. Sophia, recovering and feeling a bit inadequate, explains that because her mana was low, she had to eat a significant amount to recover. Remelia dismisses Sophia's doubts with a smile, finding her humility amusing. She realizes that this fruit, which allowed demons to survive in a land choked by miasma, is the perfect catalyst for her plans. With a grateful heart, she thanks Sophia, knowing she has finally found the key to the realm's reconstruction. Sophia is overjoyed to be of help, her spirit renewed. Meanwhile, Remelia reflects on the strategic value of the demon's trust. They not only revealed the fruit's existence, but even allowed a clinical trial on a human body. It is a windfall of information that she intends to exploit fully. Driven by the thrill of a world evolving, Remelia is convinced that humans and demons can truly live in harmony. She shares this vision with her allies, expressing her gratitude to those who have stood at the forefront of this new era. The atmosphere is electric with optimism, as Sophia enthusiastically vows to keep pushing forward. However, Remelia's expression remains thoughtful and distant, her mind already calculating the next steps of her grand design, while the others celebrate. A demon observer reflects on how he once viewed humans as the weaker race, but Sophia's indomitable energy and knightly spirit have completely changed his perspective. Remelia watches them, her eyes sharp and analytical, as she observes the growing bond between the two races. Remelia makes her move, declaring that the Lilin's fruit is the key to establishing a powerful trade alliance. She plans to create trial products based on the fruit's components to make them more effective for humans. Just then, Klimt mentions that he's picking up someone perfect for the task, someone they just found this morning. The newcomer is revealed, a weary-looking alchemist. Remelia wastes no time in getting straight to the point, asking if he is the one who created the infamous love potion and charm perfume. The alchemist is left completely stunned, realizing he is standing before the demon king himself. Remelia secures the cooperation of the mysterious alchemist, who admits to being a mere supplier for Mr. Thorne's shop. Despite his antisocial nature, Remelia's persistence pays off, bringing a dangerous level of expertise into her fold. Across the demon realm, a profound shift is taking place. The once stoic citizens are overcome with emotion, their faces flushing with a newfound hope as they look toward their distant soaring spires. Tears of joy flow freely as demons embrace one another, celebrating a peace they thought was lost forever. Amidst the collective release, a lone figure in a head wrap gazes out, feeling the quiet serenity of a world reborn. Asked how it feels to be back home, the demon looks upon the breathtaking vista of jagged peaks and rolling plains. A peaceful smile touches their lips, the weight of 1,000 years of suffering finally lifting. The landscape is now a paradise of lush greenery and soaring birds, a stark, heartbreaking contrast to the gray wasteland of dead trees that once defined their existence. This miracle of restoration is the legacy of Remelia's grace, a beauty that feels almost surreal. With the transportation gate finally complete, a golden bridge of commerce opens between the estate and the demon realm. Luxury goods and rare produce flow freely, leaving the villagers in awe of the quality and variety of the new products. The estate has become a beacon of progress, where villagers proudly show off their new skills in literacy and accounting. Beaming with pride, Remelia thanks them for their hard work before announcing the next step. It's time to send a letter and introduce herself to the world. Remelia coordinates with Mr. Thorne, who has already drafted the necessary documents for her signature. As she reviews a list of past clients, she contemplates the perfect gift to win over the nobility. Something so extraordinary that it will remain untouched by the influence of the Star Maiden. A grand, imposing mansion looms ahead as a butler welcomes a group of visitors. Among them is a poised woman who reassures her nervous companions, confident that as long as they follow her instructions, everything will go exactly according to plan. Inside, the atmosphere is explosive. Countess Dorelias is in a towering rage, screaming about the Star Maiden's recent search of her residence. Her anger shifts to demanding urgency as she corners the shopkeeper, insisting he produce the sample he promised. The shopkeeper offers his humble apologies, while the Countess vents her frustration over the Star Maiden's threats of imprisonment. The tension spikes when Remelia is introduced. The Countess is stunned to see the woman banished for attempted murder, but Remelia remains unfazed, calmly asking to be called by her name alone. With a serene smile, Remelia reveals her true purpose. She seeks permission to conduct business within the Countess's territory. The proposal is met with immediate hostility. Terrified of government retaliation and the Star Maiden's wrath, the Countess shouts a resounding no way to the idea of a local branch. Remelia doesn't let the rejection deter her. suggesting a more discreet arrangement to hide the shopkeeper while still profiting. To seal the deal, she offers a small gift, a new, improved slimming potion developed during a year of secrecy. Intrigued, the Countess allows the shopkeeper to demonstrate its power. The demonstration is a revelation. After comparing the old formula to the new one, the Countess gasps as she feels her finger instantly shrink, making her rings slide loose. Overwhelmed by the immediate, silky smooth result, the haughty noblewoman is completely won over. Nodding in frantic agreement, the shopkeeper explains that the potion's power comes from the unique magic of Remelia's estate. He proposes a clever front, a shop for ordinary citizens to mask the alchemist's presence from the Star Maiden. When the Countess questions why such a miracle would be sold cheaply, Remelia reveals she has a far more exclusive gift reserved solely for the noblewoman. Remelia closes the trap with an irresistible offer: secret regular visits to the mansion, and a massive 30% discount in exchange for the Countess's influence with the Merchant Guild. With the promise of even greater effectiveness in the future, the Countess is left utterly captivated, her resistance completely shattered. Remelia's brilliance is unmatched. From the start of her schooling, she was hailed as a magical genius, creating the very specialty tools that made the Graupner family famous. While the world remembers her as a fool banished after losing her fiancé, the truth is far more complex, and the narrative the public believes was a mistake. The deal is struck. With a flourish, Countess Dorelias grants permission to open a branch in her territory, though not without conditions. She demands that the new goods utilize special products from her own land, and insists that one of Remelia's employees be placed under her personal care. A handshake seals the pact. The Countess finds herself intrigued by Remelia's boldness, while Remelia offers a graceful smile and a word of thanks. But beneath the politeness, a sharp gaze reveals that this is only the beginning of a much larger game. As they depart in a carriage, Remelia reflects on the success of the meeting. She explains to her companions that the nobility are driven by an overwhelming curiosity, and that their presence as the face of the shop is a strategic masterstroke. With the first target secured, she prepares them for the next high-stakes negotiation. The next destination is the mansion of Viscount Lorraine, a renowned playboy of high society famous for his love of beauty and art. The welcome is explosive. The Viscount bursts in with a loud bomb, thrilled to see the shopkeeper alive and well after fearing he had been killed. Remelia introduces herself with poise, earning the Viscount's immediate admiration for her legendary beauty. The Viscount is impressed, noting that since the shopkeeper came under Remelia's wing, his lifestyle and products have improved drastically, far exceeding all expectations. The Viscount quickly deduces that the foreign goods currently sweeping the common folk are the work of the shopkeeper's store. Amused and curious, he agrees to hear out the brat Remelia, though he privately doubts she has the leverage to secure a loan. Remelia strikes again, requesting permission to do business in the Viscount's estate. She doesn't just offer a shop. She promises to introduce him to connections knowledgeable in the arts, presenting a valuable opportunity he cannot ignore. Intrigued by her confidence, the Viscount finds himself drawn into her web. Remelia raises the stakes, declaring that her current business deal far supersedes the rare goods sold at Thorne's shop. Intrigued and skeptical, Viscount Lorraine wonders what could possibly be more valuable, prompting Remelia to introduce Thika, and Thorne to the nobleman. The atmosphere shifts to one of pure shock as Remelia reveals her companion's true forms. The Viscount is momentarily bewildered, staring at their antlers and scales and questioning if these strange features are merely elaborate fakes. With a calm, steady voice, Remelia confirms the truth. These features are natural and have been with them since birth. The revelation hits like a thunderbolt. They are demons, a race the human world views with fear and mystery. Rather than recoil in horror, the Viscount begins to tremble with an obsessive excitement, completely captivated by their otherworldly beauty. Remelia, sensing his fascination, strategically notes that she has no intention of treating these precious beings as mere exhibits in a cheap showroom. Remelia continues to weave her web, explaining that their true value lies beyond the visual. She proposes a cultural exchange, offering to introduce the Viscount to a selection of demon painters, writers and directors, appealing directly to his passion for the arts. A Viscount bursts into boisterous laughter, utterly enthralled by the prospect. When Remelia asks if her companions are considered beautiful among their own kind, their humble response, that they are merely standard, only fuels the Viscount's intense curiosity. Now completely fascinated by the existence of a race with its own king and culture, the Viscount surrenders to the proposal. He tells Remelia that she has stirred a deep interest within him and asks what he must do to make this vision a reality. As they ride away in the carriage, the demon companions share a moment of profound relief. They admit to the terror they felt when removing their turbans, fearing human hatred. But seeing the Viscount's genuine admiration has washed away their guilt, leaving them feeling refreshed and finally free from the burden of hiding. Remilia looks upon her demon companions with a tender, knowing smile. She reveals her true ambition. She doesn't want them confined to her territory, but wants them to be able to live and thrive in a much larger world. Today's successful negotiations were merely the first large step toward that goal. Remilia muses on the power of storytelling, wondering how a mysterious newcomer can suddenly capture the hearts of the masses. She concludes that the secret ingredient is love, and decides to implement a bold new vision. The world's first ever musical, based on the series The Demon Lord and the Maiden of Salvation. Months later, the impact is immediate. The city is buzzing with excitement as people rave about a trending magical tool shop, praising its exotic designs and mystical products. Even the beauty of the demon employees becomes a topic of obsession, until a sudden, shocking discovery sends a group of women into a frenzy over a rare ticket. Excitement reaches a fever pitch as a super rare, 1 in 100 premiere ticket is revealed. It's a pass to see the play The Demon King Angel, and the crowd is desperate to witness the spectacle. The image of a grand theater looms, promising an experience that will leave the audience breathless. The play is a sensory explosion. A dazzling array of light, petals, and powerful magic fills the stage, leaving the audience in a state of absolute awe. The spectators are completely spellbound, their faces reflecting a mixture of shock and profound emotion as the performance unfolds. From her private box, Remilia smirks, watching the chaos she's created. Sales are booming, and the public is captivated by the novelty and quality of the Demon Realm's products. The world has begun to recognize the demon race not as monsters, but as a talented ethnic minority, sparking a new wave of business opportunities. A musical is a masterpiece of spectacle, featuring synchronized dancing and an overwhelming presence of demonic energy. The performance culminates in a breathtaking silhouette of a couple embracing under a shower of light, a scene that resonates deeply with everyone in attendance. The audience is left in tears, moved by the play's portrayal of the demons' sad history, their strength, and their love. Remilia, pleased with the result, reflects that this style of play, the kind Emmy loved, was immensely effective. As the people now view the demons as saviors who protected the world from evil gods, Remilia's plan to change the world's heart is working perfectly. Remilia's business empire is flourishing, capitalizing on the public's lowered guard following the defeat of the evil god. From exclusive merchandise to magical entertainment, she's turning a massive profit, while strategically donating a portion to the church to ensure the nobility and clergy remain on her side. Impressed by Remilia's brilliance, Sarah suggests expanding their theatrical success to the Dwarf Kingdom, known for its extraordinary stage settings. She even proposes that Remilia appear on stage as the human savior. But Remilia declines, knowing that as an exiled criminal who harmed the Star Maiden, her appearance would only ignite a firestorm of controversy. However, a new plan takes shape. It would be far more dramatic if Remilia's identity were revealed only on the day her name is finally cleared of all crimes. With a determined look, Remilia agrees, realizing this would be the perfect, most triumphant stage for her dormant Emmy to eventually stand upon. Using the power of the sacred armor of the fire god, Remilia takes Sarah on a breathtaking flight over her territory. As they soar through the clouds, Sarah is left speechless by the sight of a vast, lush, and incredibly fertile landscape stretching out beneath them. Remilia reveals that this land was once barren, but she transformed it using the science of leguminous plants. By introducing pulse beans, she utilized soil microorganisms to bring essential nutrients back into the ground, a revelation that leaves Sarah eager to implement these methods in her own country. The secret to her success is a combination of mana-infused compost, a dedicated demon workforce, and the strategic use of crop rotation farming. Remilia reflects that this knowledge came from Emmy, and she seizes the opportunity to offer the high-efficiency demon compost to Sarah at a special price. Meanwhile, the atmosphere in the royal court is suffocating. Prince Willard sits frozen in shock, his face pale as he realizes the crops he so proudly championed are failing. A mocking voice echoes in the air, asking him how he likes the taste of his own naive stupidity. Unable to contain his humiliation, Willard explodes in a fit of rage, slamming his fist onto the table and screaming for an explanation. Despite the attempts of his aides to calm him down, the prince is spiraling into a desperate, blind fury. Prince Willard is haunted by the memory of a disastrous meeting. He's devastated to realize that his prized agriculture reformation methods have already leaked across the land, turning him and his circle into a laughingstock. Even more troubling is the strange, cold attitude of his own retainers, a sign that the tide of loyalty is shifting. The story flashes back 2 months to the royal capital, where chaos reigned. A massive food poisoning incident at a charity center had left the nobility discontent and the streets filled with filth and desperate people. While Willard vowed to hold someone accountable, he clung to the hope that new luxury imports like chocolate and mayonnaise would distract the public and elevate the kingdom's gastronomy. Mounting pressure, a high-ranking nobleman advises Willard to distance himself from the turmoil. He suggests a temporary vacation away from the royal capital until the public heat dies down. Desperate for a way out, Willard gratefully accepts the offer, seeing it as a lifeline. Seizing the opportunity, Willard requests permission to test his agriculture reform plan at the getaway site alongside Claude. The nobleman agrees, noting that successful results would be the only way to silence his critics. Unbeknownst to them, a mysterious figure watches the exchange from the shadows, listening to every word. Claude is stunned to learn that the getaway site has been suspended for half a year. As Willard insists that he accompany him, Claude's expression remains clouded with dissatisfaction. Sensing the tension, Willard challenges him to speak his mind openly. Claude doesn't hold back, urging Willard to distance himself from Miss Pina and leave her in the care of the church to prove her worth as the saintess. Willard firmly rejects the idea, declaring Pina a candidate for his future wife and arguing that they must maintain the balance of power between the monarchy and the church. But Claude counters with a harsh truth. It is becoming an exhausting burden to constantly clean up the messes Pina causes. Infuriated by the defiance, Willard snaps, reminding Claude that despite being foster brothers, he must know his place. But Claude delivers a crushing blow, admitting that if it had been Miss Remelia, she would have achieved the same results without causing such endless strife. The comparison leaves Willard speechless and shaken. The tension boils over into a desperate confrontation as Claude and others plead with Sir Willard to bring Miss Remelia back. Shaken to his core, Willard realizes that even his closest allies are turning against him. He begins to fear that ever since Pina's arrival, the world has gone mad, and that no one believes in him anymore. The tension snaps as Prince Willard turns his fury on Claude. In a cold, commanding voice, he forbids Claude from accompanying him to the getaway site, warning him that any further defiance will be treated as treason. With a final, cruel order to compile 50 years of agriculture data, Willard dismisses him with a sharp, "Get out." Watching the chaos unfold from a distance, Pina sips her tea with a smirk, finding the growing instability interesting. She is well aware that information has already leaked to the influential nobles, who are now whispering about the king's decision to suspend the second prince as a result of the mounting public resentment. The nobility's gossip turns predatory, as they speculate that the first prince, the child of a concubine, now has a better shot at the throne than the disgraced second prince. As they mock the disastrous charity event, Pina observes that there are no more premium items left to attract this crowd, musing that it might be time for her to go fishing for a new target. Meanwhile, Claude is drowning in a sea of paperwork, exhausted from cleaning up the Star Maiden's mess. His misery only deepens when another official slams a fresh mountain of documents on his desk, callously reminding him that his only value is his status as the prince's foster brother. The verbal abuse continues as Claude is belittled and called stupid, warned that he is nothing without the prince's protection. Left alone with an impossible workload and a shattered spirit, Claude is forced to endure the humiliation in silence, his face twitching with suppressed rage. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a hazy, idealized dream. Willard and Remelia walk hand in hand through a breathtaking garden of roses, looking like the perfect couple. In this fantasy, Claude is shocked to see Remelia by Willard's side, wondering if the cancellation of their engagement has been miraculously withdrawn. Willard jolts awake, realizing the vision was nothing more than a dream. Beside him, the real Remelia looks on with genuine concern, asking if he's had a nightmare because of how pale he looks. Her gentle suggestion that he take a vacation to recover from his exhaustion only deepens the contrast between the dream and reality. While Remelia quietly worries that she is merely a hindrance who will get in Willard's way, the prince is completely smitten. Lost in a daze of affection, Willard decides that having Remelia by his side is the greatest support he could ever ask for, his obsession blinding him to everything else. Prince Willard's hatred for Remelia burns with a cold intensity. He dismisses her as a jealous murderer who attempted to kill the kingdom's national treasure, the Star Maiden. To Willard, Remelia's banishment wasn't a tragedy, but a mercy, as he completely erases any lingering warmth from their shared past. Memory of that day returns, a scene of absolute heartbreak. Remelia, tears streaming down her face, pleads for Willard to believe her, insisting it was all a misunderstanding. But Willard only looks at her with utter disgust, calling her a foolish woman and treating her love as a pathetic joke. In the wake of the betrayal, the pain lingers. Remelia's only wish had been for Willard to believe in her, just as she had believed in him. Watching from the sidelines, Claude reflects on how much Remelia has changed, realizing that if exile was the price for her devotion, the cost was far too high. Amidst the stress, Claude finds himself drifting into a vivid, ethereal dream. He sees himself standing on a serene beach, the gentle waves washing over his feet. For a brief moment, the weight of the world vanishes, replaced by a longing for a peace he can no longer find in reality. The dream is shattered by the harsh reality of a mountain of paperwork. Claude jolts awake at his desk, exhausted and broken, only to be greeted by the sight of a spider crawling on the wall. He lets out a hollow, hysterical laugh, realizing that his life has become nothing more than an endless cycle of toil. Finally, Claude reaches his breaking point. In a fit of explosive rage, he throws his documents into the air, screaming that he can't take it anymore. He declares his resignation, reminding the memory of the prince that he was the first to be betrayed. Knowing that Willard threw away the woman who loved him most, Claude realizes he's next, and whispers a final, definitive goodbye, Will. A few days later, the royal capital is abuzz with shocking news. The second prince has abruptly left the capital, and his most trusted right-hand man has vanished on a long vacation. While the officials gossip, Pina watches from the shadows, smiling like a predator in a web, clapping her hands at the perfect execution of her plan. In a lavish lounge, Pina and Sir Ahasha celebrate their victory. They discuss how their advice to the monarchy successfully pushed Willard to the detached palace, isolating him from power. They laugh about the luck of Claude quitting of his own accord, revealing that the entire collapse of Willard's support system was a calculated move by the spider in the web. Enter Prince Ahasha, a man of sharp ambition and cold calculation. Though he claims not to be in the mood for trifles, he declares that the time has finally come to strengthen their resolve and make their move. The strategy is ruthless. Isolate Prince Willard by cutting off all information from the royal capital, forcing him to struggle on his own. While Willard is blinded, Ahasha plans to lure influential nobles to his side with the promise of money and recognition, systematically stripping the second prince of his support. But Ahasha isn't stopping there. He sets his sights on the Star Maiden, intending to dissect her cash flow to find a fatal weakness. Having played the part of the polite noble for long enough, he decides it's time to stop playing nice and finally reveal his hidden teeth. The scene shifts abruptly to Remelia's peaceful village, where the silence is shattered by a frantic, panicked messenger screaming her name. In a state of absolute terror, the man warns her that an absurd person has arrived. As the imposing figure of Prince Ahasha looms behind him. Despite the chaos, Remelia remains perfectly composed, greeting the visitor with a polite smile. She acknowledges him as Prince Ahasha, while the prince looks at her with a predatory glint in his eye, noting that he has finally caught quite a big fish. Ahasha is mistaken about who the predator is. Behind her gentle expression, Remelia is already calculating his value, deciding that he has passed her test. By giving him a role to play, she intends to use him as a key piece on a stage designed to utterly destroy Prince Willard's future. Ahasha attempts to smooth things over, offering a formal apology for his foolish brother's actions. Remelia graciously dismisses the need for apologies, leading him to a high cliff overlooking her domain and asking for his honest impression of what lies below. Below them stretches a breathtaking sight. A prosperous, meticulously organized village that defies all expectations. As they gaze upon the thriving community and its lush farmlands, Remelia asks if he can finally see the miracle he has always wanted to witness. Prince Ahasha is left utterly speechless. Gazing upon the sprawling, prosperous village Remelia has built from nothing, he can only admit that the sight is far beyond anything he could have imagined. As he surveys the land, Ahasha is stunned to find more than just farms. The village is a fully functioning society with schools, churches, and factories. Most impressively, Remelia has provided a sanctuary for displaced artisans and the impoverished, creating a balanced community where humans and demons coexist in harmony. Being the tangible proof of Remelia's power, Ahasha decides to throw his lot in with her. He drops a bombshell revelation that his own mother is of demon lineage and proposes a bold new alliance, intergovernmental trade between their two nations. Remelia takes the news in stride, her calm demeanor suggesting she already knew the truth. She accepts his proposal with a smile, but warns that since he has shared a secret, she has something equally shocking to confide in him. With a gaze that pierces through him, Remelia makes a staggering claim. She possesses the memories of the maiden destined to save the world. Intrigued and shaken, Ahasha listens as she prepares to reveal the trials she has endured and her master plan for the future. A new bond forms between them, as Ahasha acknowledges that his younger brother's past successes were merely reflections of Remelia's brilliance. Casting aside his old life as a reckless prodigal son, he decides there is no longer any need to hide his true self. The pieces are now in place for a devastating counterattack. As the stage is set for Chapter 20, Dear Foolish You, the message is clear. When your family is in trouble, the time for playing around is over. The day of the meeting arrives, and Prince Willard finds himself the target of cruel laughter. While he spirals in confusion and rage, the nobility praises a new agricultural method that promises record-high revenues, a success that serves as a crushing reminder of everything Willard has lost. Prince Willard's position continues to crumble during the royal meeting. His allies' proposals for national insurance and pensions are ruthlessly torn apart as lacking in funding and too risky for the church's relations. Despite some nobles suggesting it's too early to judge recent graduates, the contrast between their former reputation and current failure leaves Willard gritting his teeth in frustration. Into this tension steps Prince Eruhasha, radiating a newfound confidence that leaves Willard unsettled. Eruhasha shifts the conversation toward national trade, pointing out the sudden surge of demonic artifacts circulating within the capital and the changing attitudes of the vassals toward these mysterious items. Eruhasha paints a vivid picture of a nobility already captivated by demon culture. From thriving salons to the magnificent theatrical performances at Viscount Lorraine's estate. As he describes the obsession with mysterious artifacts, novels, and dolls, Willard can only look on in bewilderment, wondering how the world shifted beneath his feet. A chilling sensation washes over Willard as he realizes the gaze of the court has changed. He is no longer the center of admiration, but an outsider. Seizing the moment, Eruhasha proposes a bold leap, expanding from small-scale private sales to full intergovernmental trade, arguing that demon culture is far more than a passing trend. Desperate to regain control, Willard slams his hand down, demanding a halt to the proceedings. He admits his ignorance of demon items, but launches a sharp attack, questioning whether a nation so mysterious could ever be trustworthy enough for official government transactions. Willard doubles down, arguing that it is premature to contract with an unfamiliar party whose nature remains uncertain. He claims he has never even heard of the demon folk or their homeland, but Eruhasha only smiles, cryptically noting that the prince has simply not yet watched that play. Then, Eruhasha drops his bombshell that silences the room. In truth, my mother is of the demon lineage. With a calm, calculated grace, he acknowledges Willard's concerns as understandable and offers to provide a full explanation about the demon folk. The room erupts into absolute chaos. Shocked nobles murmur in disbelief, questioning the timing of the reveal and the implications for inheritance rights, with some even shouting accusations of betrayal. Amidst the storm of panic and confusion, Eruhasha remains the eye of the hurricane, coolly preparing to clarify the existence of the demon realm. Prince Eruhasha commands the room, rhetorically asking who would believe a claim of origin from a non-existent country. He argues that there is no point in disclosing a heritage that cannot be verified, yet he reveals a startling truth. His mother was a commoner of demonic lineage who rose to become a favored concubine of the king. He continues to weave a compelling narrative, explaining that while elven and dwarven bloodlines are known, the demon realm lay hidden on an uncharted continent. He describes a land once choked by miasma, where children had to be saved via teleportation magic, a problem that has only recently been solved, allowing the borders to open for reconstruction. With a calm poise, Eruhasha explains that he and his kind lived inconspicuous lives to hide their abnormal lifespans, arguing that their lack of historical record is actually proof of their modest nature. As the nobles begin to accept this, the conversation shifts toward the strategic advantages of moving from private trade to official state-level transactions. A predatory smile plays on Eruhasha's lips as he outlines the gold mine, the demon realm's abundant undeveloped resources. He points out that since the realm suffers from food shortages, it is the perfect opportunity for exports, especially as their own country advances in agricultural reforms. Beside him, Prince Willard can only fume in silent, humiliated rage. The court is completely won over. Praising Eruhasha's remarkable foresight, the nobility now sees the immense benefit of exporting goods to a resource-rich ally, especially one with such deep ties to the prince. As the officials flock to Eruhasha's side, Willard is left isolated, a shadow of his former self. A few days later, Pina watches the fallout with cold amusement. She gazes at a dam constructed upstream in Remelia's territory, which has already solved the flooding issues Willard was supposed to fix. With a cruel smirk, she muses that the failure serves him right, as Remelia has effortlessly outclassed him. Pina notes that with wars and monsters quelled by the removal of the miasma, the new battleground is internal politics. Consequently, Eruhasha, once low in the succession rank, is now rising to the center of power. She delights in the psychological torture Willard is enduring, knowing that seeing someone he deemed inferior prove more competent is causing him immense stress. Beside a broken Prince Willard, Pina's mask of kindness slips. She calls him a small and foolish man, mocking him for feeling at ease next to a woman as repulsive as Remelia. With a distorted, menacing expression, she declares that it's time for Willard to learn his lesson the hard way. A sudden magical chime interrupts Remelia's day as a communication crystal pops into existence. Meanwhile, in the heart of the village, Angel has arrived, noting with a knowing look that a certain Angel, the elusive alchemist, has finally made an appearance. Remelia and Angel reunite in the village, their meeting filled with a warmth that doesn't go unnoticed. When Remelia asks why he looks so genuinely happy, Angel reveals that he has finally completed the critical task she requested of him. With a flourish, Angel presents a shimmering, ornate bottle to Remelia. The prize is finally here. The long-awaited antidote to the love potion, a key piece in dismantling the chaos caused by Pina's manipulations. But the victory came with a confrontation. Angel looms over the trembling alchemist, coldly confirming their identity as the creator of the love potion and charm perfume. The alchemist is paralyzed with fear, stuttering in terror at the presence of the Demon King himself. The alchemist's attempt to flee was short-lived. Just as they tried to scramble through a window to escape, Angel's hand clamped down on their collar with iron strength, demanding to know why they were running away. Panic takes over as the alchemist screams in desperation, frantically trying to swat Angel away. Despite the chaos, Angel remains unnervingly calm, insisting that he simply wants to talk, though his grip remains unbreakable. Then, Angel decides to play a dangerous game. Leaning in close enough to feel the alchemist's breath, he delivers a smug, devastatingly confident warning. If you get too close, you'll fall in love with me. The alchemist is left completely overwhelmed, shaking under the weight of his intensity. However, the moment of tension ends in a sudden, awkward silence. As the alchemist blinks in confusion, realizing that absolutely nothing happened, Angel is left staring back, bewildered that his legendary charm failed to produce the expected result. Several months have passed since Prince Eruhasha proposed the expansion of trade. While rival nobles attempted to spark a backlash, those profiting from Remelia's village quickly suppressed the objections. Now living in luxurious comfort, Remelia looks back on her success and asks about the fate of the alchemist. Angel reveals the tragic truth. The alchemist possesses uncontrollable mana that naturally charms others, a curse that forced him into a life of seclusion. His potions, smuggled into the human realm, became a hit because they only worked between humans, and the Saintess Pina's buffing ability only amplified the effect, making the charm last far longer than intended. The path to the antidote was paved with failure, but by combining rare herbs with Angel's unaffected mana, they finally succeeded. The alchemist is now thrilled, hoping to create a medicine to control his own mana so he can finally live among others again. A prospect that brings a genuine smile to Remelia's face. They walk together. Angel expresses his deep gratitude, noting that everyone in the demon realm is now well off thanks to Remelia's salvation. He asks how she has been, having left her as the primary point of contact for the trade alliance. But Remelia's mind is already on the next move. The opposing factions plot to tax demon tools. Remelia's strategic genius is on full display. By having Angel buy up the surplus harvest from the agricultural reforms, she saved numerous territories from economic collapse, while ensuring Prince Eruhasha negotiated fair tax rates. However, she admits with a cold edge that she intentionally ignored the nobles who harmed Emmy, letting their prices crash in a calculated act of revenge. The creation of a teleportation gate between the village and the capital has sparked a revolution in distribution, leaving the magicians of the tower in awe. Despite some lingering prejudices, Remelia's musical and stores have turned her into a national celebrity, making Angel realize with emotion that demons are finally being welcomed by society. The region has transformed into a bustling hub of hotels, theaters, and souvenir shops, including a stunning cavern-style hotel built with Princess Sarah's help. As Angel prepares for tomorrow's treaty negotiations, Remelia warns him to stay vigilant against deep-rooted vested interests and the threat of extremists. In a tender moment, Angel asks Remelia to accompany him, but she gently declines. She explains that being seen with a heinous criminal could lead to her being branded an accomplice, potentially jeopardizing the entire trade agreement. Though the request is denied, a soft, knowing smile remains between them. They part ways. A heavy silence hangs between Remelia and Angel. Both are lost in thought, wondering what will happen if this alliance is truly successful. Their gazes reflecting a mixture of anticipation and unspoken hope. Angel suddenly looks flustered, unable to find the words. When Remelia asks what's wrong, he awkwardly brushes it off, admitting there is something he wants to tell her, but only after the joyous discussions of the treaty are over. Remelia simply smiles, thinking to herself that she already knows exactly what he's planning. With a blush creeping across his face and his eyes cast down, Angel's nervousness is palpable. Remelia watches him with a knowing gaze, certain that the Demon King intends to propose to her once the political storm has passed. Meanwhile, at the royal palace, the atmosphere is thick with tension. The human nobility, once arrogant in their belief that they could manipulate the uncivilized demons for profit, now tremble in fear. They relied on their history of war and knowledge as weapons, but that confidence vanished the moment they faced a power they couldn't comprehend. The doors swing open as Angel and Klimt make their grand entrance. Dressed in opulent, fur-trimmed royal attire, the two demons radiate an imposing presence that commands the entire room, turning the palace into their own stage. Angel's voice is polite, expressing deep gratitude for the care given to the refugees and hoping for a future of friendship. But beneath the diplomatic words lies a crushing weight. His extraordinary mana fills the room, leaving the nobles frozen in terror, unable to breathe or even blink as they are reduced to trembling dolls. Returning through the teleportation gate, Angel reports that the alliance was agreed upon without a single problem. Remelia is pleased that relations were established peacefully, though Angel admits the king and the opposition party were simply too terrified to do anything but nod along. Remelia muses that in another world, Willard and the Star Maiden should have been the ones with the power to face the Demon King. The lesson is clear. In the world of diplomacy, overwhelming strength is the ultimate argument. While Angel protests that he wasn't being threatening and was merely assisted by cooperative nobles, Remelia just chuckles. She knows the truth, teasingly praising him for a job well done, while enjoying his complete lack of self-awareness regarding his own terrifying presence. Remelia watches Angel, who continues to play the part of the innocent, yet she recognizes the cold efficiency of his actions as a ruler. With a subtle, dangerous smirk, she resolves that the remaining pieces of her plan will be dedicated to one thing: a devastating revenge for Emmy. Meanwhile, Pina returns from her isolated health resort in a foul mood, ruthlessly dismissing her jewelry collection as crap. Her boredom is interrupted when a servant presents a new, trendy necklace, noting that it features exquisite jewels sourced directly from the demon realm. The news hits Pina like a physical blow, leaving her completely frozen. She is horrified to learn that the demon realm is not only real, but has become a peaceful trading partner since the miasma was cleansed, a development that has already captured the obsession of the capital's elite salons. Pina spirals into a violent meltdown, unable to comprehend how the world is changing without her. In her delusional mind, she is the only one destined to solve the world's disasters, the only one who should be worshipped, and the only one Lord Angel should love. The realization that her destiny is being stolen sends her into a blind rage. Driven by desperation, Pina bursts into a royal gathering, her voice echoing through the hall as she screams a warning to the nobility. Confused and startled, Prince Willard asks what has possibly happened to cause such a sudden outburst. Pina begins to weave a terrifying lie, claiming that the demon folk are ticking time bombs. She warns the nobles that exposure to miasma drives them into a state of uncontrollable madness known as frenzy, leaving Willard and the others unsettled by her intensity. To seal the fear, Pina describes horrific incidents of demons turning into monsters and claiming human lives to cure their madness. With a wide, haunting gaze, she drops the final label, declaring that those who witnessed these atrocities called them nothing other than devils. Just as the nobles are gripped by terror, Pina shifts her mask to that of a benevolent savior, smiling brightly as she explains the truth about the fallen creator god. She proclaims with absolute confidence that only she, the Star Maiden, possesses the power to purify the evil god and save the world, leaving the nobility shaken and doubting the demons once more. Just as Pina thinks she has the nobility in the palm of her hand, a sharp question cuts through her performance. She is asked if she truly intends to use her position as the Star Maiden to persecute other races by branding them as devils, leaving her momentarily stunned and speechless. The atmosphere in the room shifts instantly. The nobles, who were once captivated, now gaze at her with cold, judging eyes. Panic seizes Pina as she realizes the tide has turned, desperately shouting that they have everything wrong. Desperate to regain control, Pina doubles down on her lies, dramatically claiming that history records devils devouring hundreds of citizens during a frenzy. She attempts to play the innocent savior, smiling brightly and assuming the nobles have fallen for her trick once again. But the mask of the Star Maiden is slipping. A noble confronts her with a devastating truth. How could someone who has never even left the country possess such specific knowledge? Pina stammers, trying to hide behind her title, but her credibility is crumbling before their eyes. The nobility's response is swift and severe. They point out that the rulers of the demon realm have already established official relations, and to accuse their god of such travesties without evidence would be an act of aggression. The word war echoes in the hall, leaving Pina trembling in shock. The final blow comes as the nobles reveal the demon realm's generosity toward the national church. Then, with a chilling calm, one of them asks if Pina really dared to say all that, while completely ignoring the fact that Prince Eruhasha, who is standing right there, is of demon descent himself. Prince Eruhasha stands before her, his expression composed and slightly smug. Pina is frozen, her mind reeling in complete disbelief as she stares at the man she just indirectly branded a monster. Pina's world is spinning. She's plagued by confusion. Why is Eruhasha's secret public knowledge? Why does he look so much better than he did in the game? In a chaotic whirl of shock and sudden misplaced attraction, she can only scream his name in her head, while Eruhasha looks on, having already seen right through her. Prince Eruhasha doesn't let Pina's act slide for a second. With a smug, piercing smile, he exposes her true motive. She is trying to defame him for his demon blood and royal lineage, simply to clear the path for her lover, Prince Willard, to take the throne. Anna desperately tries to claim she was only telling the truth, but Eruhasha mocks her with a cold summary of her logic. He points out how convenient it is that everyone else is foolish enough to be deceived by demons, while only she is clever enough to see them as man-eating devils. The mockery spreads as the other nobles join in, laughing at her absurdity. One sharply notes that if she truly possessed the miraculous power to see the world's truth, the capital's public safety wouldn't have plummeted so drastically under her watch. Completely broken and twitching in shock, Pina tries to scream for Willard, but she is shut down and ordered back to her room. As she is dismissed in disgrace, Prince Eruhasha looks on with a triumphant smirk, while Prince Willard stands by, jolted and humiliated. Before leaving, Eruhasha delivers one final, stinging insult, telling Willard that such a wonderful lover truly suits him and to make sure he treasures her. While Willard burns with shame, Pina is left in a state of absolute fury, unable to comprehend how her perfect plan has fallen apart. Back in her room, Pina's facade completely shatters. In a violent narcissistic rage, she trashes her entire living space, screaming at the top of her lungs that she is the Star Maiden, national treasure, and a freaking saint who should never have been made a fool of. The moment a man named Romano arrives, Pina's persona flips instantly. She transforms back into a fragile, trembling victim, tearfully claiming that the first prince's faction despises her, and has been using maids to harass her and destroy her room. Sobbing fake tears, Pina tells Romano that all she wants is to pew ponchers for the sake of the citizens. Romano, completely fooled, consoles her and concludes that the first prince's faction is simply desperate to stop Willard's succession. As he pats her head, Pina clings to him, securing a new pawn in her game of manipulation. Pina isn't done with her games. She approaches Romano with a cute request, asking him to secretly procure rare items she can't get herself, nectar of Lilith flowers and tuberous roots of the Asmodi. She points out that demon folk have recently opened shops in the city, and she insists that her identity as the buyer must remain a complete secret. To ensure total anonymity, Pina instructs Romano to use middlemen for the transaction. As Romano agrees to the task, Pina leans in with a playful giggle, promising him an even more lavish reward if he succeeds in finding the ingredients. Internally, Pina is ecstatic. Though she's baffled by how trade with the demon realm began so suddenly, she sees this as a golden opportunity to get her hands on powerful, purchasable items once again. But as she dreams of power, a sinister spider-like creature lurks in the shadows, hinting at a darkness yet to come. The scene shifts to Romano, whose own secrets are far darker than he lets on. In a dim room, he stares at a file, haunted by the realization that this is already the fourth victim this month. A flicker of doubt crosses his face as he asks himself if he has made a terrible mistake. Romano's guilt manifests as a waking nightmare. He finds himself sprinting through a suffocating, endless void, panting in terror as he searches for any sign of life. Just as he begins to lose hope, he spots a group of figures in the distance and rushes toward them, desperate for help. But the people he finds are far from human. They are grotesque, faceless horrors with hollow eyes and distorted features. As Romano recoils in horror, he discovers a guillotine with a body slumped over it, and a woman with stringy, matted hair emerges from the gloom to stare at him. The nightmare descends into chaos as the creatures begin to clap in a rhythmic, terrifying unison, chanting, "Drop it!" Romano screams in agony, recognizing the figure as his mother, while the woman on the guillotine wails in a desperate plea for salvation. He begs them to stop, but the psychological torture only intensifies. The distorted image of his mother leans in, her face twisted into a wide, grotesque grin that reaches from ear to ear. With a chilling finality, she delivers the verdict for his suffering. "It's because you lied." The nightmare reaches a deafening crescendo. Romano is consumed by a visceral, soul-shattering scream, as images of a guillotine and distorted figures flash before his eyes, leaving him trapped in a cycle of absolute terror. Romano bolts upright in bed, gasping for air and drenched in a cold sweat. As the silence of his room returns, he stares blankly into the distance, trembling and trying to grasp the fading fragments of the horrific dream that just haunted him. As a spider descends slowly on its web, a haunting voice echoes in the void, pleading for forgiveness. The voice confesses a desperate need to tell the truth, leaving a lingering sense of dread as the chapter closes on a chilling note. Meanwhile, the king stares at a report in disbelief, his expression twisted with distress. An official informs him of a shocking development. The witnesses have retracted their testimonies, admitting they only lied at the request of the Star Maiden. The king is plagued by regret, remembering how he once believed Prince Willard's perfect evidence without question. He realizes now that the overwhelming charges used to condemn Remilia were likely nothing more than a meticulously crafted lie. The truth is finally revealed. The condemnation of Remilia was a complete farce. It was a calculated move by Willard, designed not to end their engagement, but merely to force Remilia into a position of submission and reflection. The news spreads like wildfire through the palace corridors. The nobility is in an uproar, shocked that commoners would be so bold as to frame an aristocrat and lie so blatantly just to aid the Star Maiden. As the nobles whisper about the king's next move and the inevitable fall of Prince Willard, a maid listens in with a sharp, knowing smile. She watches with satisfaction as the credibility of the second prince's faction plummets, knowing this is only the beginning of their collapse. Remilia sips her tea in serene confidence, knowing her psychological warfare is paying off. The nightmares she's orchestrated are fracturing her enemy's resolve, and doubts about the condemnation drama are finally beginning to surface. As she muses on how foolish it is for them to prolong their own suffering, Sophia enters with a letter. The letter is from her father, Duke Graupner, who is suddenly curious about her business dealings with the demon folk and wants to get involved. Remilia remains unfazed. In the cutthroat world of aristocratic information warfare, she knows that keeping her family in the dark was the only way to maintain the upper hand. Remilia reveals her grander scheme. She is deliberately flooding the market with competitive products from the demon realm to destabilize the duchy's business. As unemployment rises among the residents, she plans to welcome the struggling workers into her own domain, transforming them into a loyal and valuable workforce. Sophia is more than happy to help execute the plan. The rest of the letter reveals the Duke's true colors, as he arrogantly revokes Remilia's family status and demands she swiftly accept her ruin for not believing in Amy's innocence. Remilia finds the tone far too rude for business correspondence with a stranger, coldly instructing Sophia to dispose of the letter. The atmosphere shifts with the arrival of Angel, who greets Remilia with a charming smile. He brings exhilarating news. In 6 months, a grand banquet celebrating diplomatic relations between their nations will be held at Blue Flame. To her surprise, Angel invites Remilia to attend the event as his partner. While Sophia is practically vibrating with excitement, Remilia is momentarily stunned. Angel explains the strategic advantage. As the guest of honor's partner, she will have the perfect platform to present her evidence directly to the king and once and for all refute the false charges against her. Deeply touched, Remilia thanks Angel, who reminds her that he always intended to have her back. As Sophia rushes off to handle the arrangements, the stage is set. At long last, the real party is about to begin. Meanwhile, Prince Willard is reaching his breaking point. He tries to reason with Pina, telling her she already has plenty of dresses from the villa, but Pina is outraged. She accuses him of being cold-hearted, claiming that attending the banquet in casual attire would damage the country's prestige, completely ignoring the fact that budgets don't appear out of thin air. Pina puts on her best performance, sobbing and accusing Prince Willard of becoming cold toward her. While Willard is clearly irritated by her constant demands for money, he finds himself strangely unable to bring himself to hate her, even as she reminds him of the days at the academy when he was completely devoted to her. Exhausted and drained, Willard walks away with a heavy sigh. He passes by a group of laughing nobles, but the joy of the crowd only emphasizes his own profound sense of isolation and melancholy. Lost in thought, Willard wonders how his life came to this. He is haunted by a memory of a happier time with Remilia, and the echo of her heartbroken voice still rings in his head, reminding him of the love he once promised her, and the betrayal that followed. In his mind, the image of their relationship shatters like a mirror. He clings to a desperate, unspoken hope, wondering if Remilia will ever admit that she wants to return to his side, even as the fragments of their past fall apart. But beneath the surface, something far darker is stirring. A shadowy, predatory presence watches from the void, while Remilia's terrified expression is seen through distorted ripples, only to be sliced through by a cold, unseen force. The image of a face shatters further, stained with streaks of black ink-like blood. Amidst this psychological chaos, a firm resolve takes hold. The entity within cannot afford to be distracted by these lingering echoes of the past. The focus is singular and deadly. To execute her plan, she knows she must be able to mimic Emmy's perfect, innocent smile when she finally steps onto the stage at the royal banquet. 1. Standing in the shadows, the entity inhabiting Remilia's body reveals her true form, a small horn protruding from her head. With a chilling smile, she declares that the day has finally come to cast that woman into a living hell. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting, Emmy. Dressed in a gown of dark elegance, the entity within Remelia makes a solemn, chilling vow. Swearing on her own name, she pledges to reclaim everything that was stolen, all for the sake of the woman whose body she now inhabits. Remelia admires a shimmering golden mana stone, noting that its hue perfectly matches the hair of the original Remelia and the eyes of Angel. While Angel flusteredly claims the stone is merely insect repellent, his brother Klimt looks on with skepticism, questioning if Remelia truly understands the weight of wearing such an item. Klimt scolds his brother for his deceptive ways, but Angel insists he isn't lying. He just hasn't told her the truth yet. Secretly, Remelia is amused. Thanks to Amy's knowledge, she knows that among the demon folk, gifting a mana stone of one's own color is a formal sign of proposal and acceptance. Remelia finds herself genuinely liking the two demon brothers, admiring how they prioritize the interests of their nation over their own personal feelings. She is confident that, despite any influence Pina may exert, they will ultimately choose her, the Remelia that Emmy has become. Her thoughts are interrupted when a messenger arrives with an urgent report for Sir Angel. The report brings a grim revelation. A corpse has been found. As the messenger mentions a suggestion for that one matter on the appointed day, Remelia watches from the sidelines with a knowing, satisfied smile, the pieces of her plan falling perfectly into place. The scene shifts to the grand royal banquet, a whirlwind of opulence and high society. The ballroom is packed with nobles sipping champagne and tasting the exotic Lilin wine, a rare delicacy crafted from the fruits of the demon realm. The guests are captivated by the tokens of goodwill from the demon kingdom, whispering about the health benefits of the wine and marveling at the splendid, otherworldly gems adorning the guests. The atmosphere is thick with curiosity and admiration for the demon folk's craftsmanship. Then, the atmosphere is shattered by a truly extravagant entrance. Pina sweeps into the ballroom in a breathtakingly oversized white gown, adorned with shimmering stars and massive bows. Beaming with triumph, she makes sure every single eye in the room is fixed on her. Pina's entrance is a spectacle of excess, but the nobles aren't fooled. While some marvel at the crushed diamonds in her hair and her refined taste, others whisper that her budget is inexplicably growing, even as her popularity plummets. They notice the stark contrast between the Star Maiden's high spirits and the sheer exhaustion etched on the faces of the men accompanying her. Gossip turns cruel as the nobility recounts the fall of the city's most promising young men. From Lord David's broken engagement to the musician who now hides in shame, and finally the house arrest of Lord Claude and Lord Willard. Just as they muse on how quickly grace can vanish, a thunderous trumpet blast echoes through the hall, signaling a royal arrival. The room falls silent as the announcement rings out. Their Majesties, the King and the Demon King, have arrived. The two monarchs enter with an air of absolute authority, with the Demon King leading the way with a sharp, commanding presence that immediately captures the room's attention. In Pina's eyes, the world transforms into a romantic dream. The Demon King appears surrounded by floating roses and white pigeons, looking every bit the dashing fantasy. Pina is completely starstruck, her heart racing as she gazes at him with pure, unadulterated adoration. Pina's mind floods with memories of their interactions. Moments where Lord Angel whispered that he wouldn't let her return to her country, and begged her not to leave his side. She recalls her own attempts to be the cute Star Maiden, and her offers of purification. Even as he looked on with a mix of skepticism and curiosity, the King and the Demon King share a toast to their new diplomatic relations. The King is absolutely delighted by the Lilin wine, exclaiming that his chronic back pain has vanished instantly, as if years of suffering had been erased with a single sip. But the Demon King's smile hides a calculated truth. He reveals that the Lilin wine is a special brew, a curse designed to amplify feelings of affection while simultaneously erasing inexplicable fondness for others. As the nobles gasp in shock, he adds that the wine also dispels the very curse that has been afflicting the human kingdom. Pina stands at the center of her circle, but she is no longer aware of the world around her. Her eyes are wide and swirling with infatuation, her expression one of total, dazed surrender. She is completely ensnared by the Demon King's presence, her heart now a prisoner to the very curse he unleashed. The effect of the wine is instantaneous and brutal. The men surrounding Pina are stripped of their fake affection, their faces twisting into expressions of pure terror and misery. As they stand broken and defeated, a monstrous grinning maw emerges from a swirling void, mockingly asking, "So how does it taste?" It was no ordinary drink, but a meticulously crafted antidote. By blending the restorative power of Lilin fruits with herbs from the Demon Kingdom and Lord Angel's own mana, which is naturally resistant to love potions, they created a brew that shatters illusions. But for Pina, The effect is a delusional spiral of infatuation, leaving her hard-eyed and screaming with joy just because Lord Angel is looking her way. The king introduces her as the Star Maiden, the legendary saintess of the country, but Lord Angel is unimpressed. He stares at her with cold, piercing eyes, wondering who this woman even is before dismissively labeling her as nothing more than an ornament. While the surrounding nobles are stunned by the insult, Pina's distorted mind interprets the slur as a flirtation, giggling at the idea of being something he wants to put on display. Watching from the sidelines, Remelia has to fight every instinct to burst out laughing, eagerly anticipating the moment Pina's face finally twists with despair and regret. Oblivious to the danger, Pina tries to bridge the gap, shyly asking if she can call him Lord Angel, while introducing herself as Pina Blanche. The king watches the interaction with a look of deep suspicion, his mind clearly questioning the true nature of this woman. Suddenly, the atmosphere turns lethal. Lord Angel's expression hardens as he detects a familiar scent wafting from Pina, the exact perfume used as bait to arrest those trafficking banned drugs from the Demon Kingdom. With a chilling calm, he asks his subordinate, Sylvest, if this should be considered an act of hostility against the demon folk. Sylvest doesn't hesitate, violently seizing Pina by the arm. Why, Pina is thrown back in a panic, her voice trembling as she screams that she would never commit such an act. She desperately pleads that he is mistaken, but the king only lets out a long, exhausted sigh, appearing completely indifferent to her plight. Angel delivers the final blow, revealing that his trade manager reported an individual seeking a prohibited drug used to control the minds of demons. He leans in close, his eyes glowing with an intimidating power that paralyzes Pina with fear. With a cold, predatory gaze, he challenges her. If this isn't an attempt on his life, then how exactly is he mistaken? Lord Angel's patience has reached its limit. As Pina desperately claims she only wanted to get along with the demon folk, he reveals a terrifying truth. His eyes can see right through her lies. When one of the men dares to call Remelia a tramp, Angel doesn't hesitate, coldly ordering a knight to seal the mouth of the wretch who dared utter such an insult. The Demon King's fury is palpable. He is disgusted that anyone would insult the woman to whom he owes his country's salvation, admitting he almost feels like strangling the offender to death. Pina tries to play the sweet maiden, begging him not to raise his voice, but Angel shuts her down with brutal efficiency, commanding her to shut her vulgar mouth and stop using his name without permission. Just as the tension reaches a breaking point, the curtains part for a grand reveal. Stepping into the light is Remelia, making an entrance that steals the breath from everyone in the room. Clad in a sophisticated flowing black gown, she stands in stark, elegant contrast to Pina's frilly white dress. She is a vision of absolute perfection. With her long, shimmering hair and a gaze of calm confidence, Remelia has transformed into a goddess of the night. Every detail of her attire and expression radiates a power and grace that completely eclipses everything else in the ballroom. The shock is instantaneous. Prince Willard can only whisper her name in a daze, while Pina is left reeling, unable to process the woman standing before her. Even the other nobles are stunned into silence, calling out to the sister they once knew, now unrecognizable in her breathtaking beauty. A wave of frantic whispers sweeps through the crowd. The nobility notices a daring detail. Remelia and the Demon King are wearing each other's signature colors, sparking rumors of a deep, hidden connection. As the high society ladies hail the dramatic return of the Jewel Rose, Pina's face twists in horror as she notices something glittering on Remelia's chest. Pina's heart sinks as she recognizes the jewelry. A golden mana stone. Terrified by its meaning and desperate to salvage her image, she bursts into fake tears, claiming she thought her own scent was just a good luck charm, and had no idea it was a banned drug in the Demon Kingdom. But as she pleads, she sees Angel and Remelia standing together in perfect, untouchable harmony. Driven by desperation and a delusional need for power, Pina makes one final, audacious gamble. With a forced, sparkling smile and eyes full of greed, she proposes the unthinkable, that she, the Star Maiden representing the country, should marry the Demon King. The ballroom is thick with tension as the nobility looks on in stunned silence. Even the king seems intrigued by the unfolding drama, his gaze lingering on the scene. Amidst the chaos, a voice calls out to Remelia, drawing all eyes toward her. Remelia's expression is one of pure, unadulterated disgust. As she listens to Pina's absurd proposal, the entity within her can barely contain its contempt, wondering what kind of delusional nonsense this fool is even spouting. Pina is in her element, eyes sparkling with greed as she pitches herself as the perfect queen, claiming her Star Maiden powers could revolutionize the demon realm. While Lord Angel is left genuinely confused by her sincerity, Remelia watches with a smug smile, knowing that Angel's only weakness is his bewilderment when faced with someone who truly believes their own delusions. With a grace that commands the room, Remelia clarifies her position. She is no longer here as the daughter of Duke Graupner, but as a guest of the Demon Kingdom. Sensing the volatility of the moment, she calmly suggests a short break, subtly noting that the Star Maiden seems to be unwell. A move the king quickly agrees to. Pina immediately pivots to her favorite tactic, playing the victim. She bursts into tears, accusing Remelia of trying to do something awful to her again. But Remelia is unmoved, thinking that while the original Emi might have been merciful, she is more than happy to let Pina dig her own grave in public. The entity within Remelia looms large, a predatory force of nature that saw this entire reaction coming. In a symbolic clash of light and shadow, she reflects on the predictability of Pina's desperation, knowing exactly how the Star Maiden would react when cornered. Internally, Pina is screaming in rage and panic. She reveals her own sinister past, admitting she had paid thugs to attack Remelia after her banishment to ensure she would never return. Now staring at the woman she thought she had destroyed, she curses her own negligence for not finishing the job herself. Being the disaster, the king attempts to damage control by apologizing to the Demon King and ordering Pina's immediate removal. But Remelia intervenes with a cold, firm command. She shall remain. She isn't finished with Pina yet. The torture of staying in a room where she is utterly loathed is far more satisfying than a quick exit. Remelia takes complete control of the room, her voice ringing with authority. She declares that since it has been proven the Star Maiden was manipulating their emotions, the only way to regain trust and establish true diplomatic goodwill is to clear all suspicions right here and now. With a chilling resolve, she offers to reveal the absolute truth to every witness present. The nobility is in an uproar, their curiosity ignited by the scandal. While some are horrified that the country's symbol of purity could be so corrupt, others are practically scrambling for VIP seats just to get a front-row view of the impending disaster. The atmosphere is a chaotic mix of fear and morbid excitement. As Lord Ongle steps back to let the drama unfold, the stage is set for a final confrontation. Pina is spiraling into a panic, desperate to erase the misunderstanding Lord Ongle has of her, all while swearing a silent, hateful vow that she will never forgive Remelia for this humiliation. In a last-ditch effort, Pina screams to the Demon King that Remelia is a deceiver who was banished for attempting to kill her. But Lord Ongle remains unmoved, his gaze cold and piercing. He reminds her that his magic eyes can see through any lie, making it clear that he already knows exactly who is telling the truth. The crowd is mesmerized by the revelation of the Demon King's invincible ability, but Pina refuses to back down. She pivots her strategy, claiming that Remelia is simply delusional about her own crimes. She brings up the incident where she was thrown down the stairs, insisting that the witness's eyes don't lie. Desperate for an ally, Pina attempts to rope in Prince Willard, reminding him that he was the one who helped her up and expressed his disappointment in Remelia. Willard is paralyzed with fear, his heart hammering against his ribs as he feels the weight of the lie. Watching from the side, Lord Ongle smirks, savoring the psychological collapse of the man. The sight of Remelia's cold, indifferent gaze is the final straw for Willard. He completely breaks, screaming in agony and begging her not to turn away from him. Overwhelmed by guilt and desperation, he finally collapses under the pressure, sobbing that he didn't mean it and that the truth is, in the midst of the chaos, a haunting memory surfaces. A vision of the original Remelia radiating warmth and pure, unconditional love. Her bright smile and the echo of her voice saying, "I love you," serve as a cruel contrast to the cold, vengeful woman she has become, leaving Willard shattered by the ghost of what he threw away. Lord Ongle looks on with a mixture of amusement and disdain, thinking how shrewd Remelia's play is. While Pina desperately tries to rephrase her claims, insisting that the truth is obvious, Ongle shuts her down coldly, telling her that simply changing her words won't get her out of this mess. The Demon King's interrogation becomes a psychological trap. He demands a simple yes or no answer. Did she lie, forge evidence, and bribe witnesses just to have Remelia punished on false charges? Pina is left reeling, her face twisting in a panic as she screams that this way of asking is foul play. A heavy silence falls over the room, and the nobility begins to whisper. The realization hits them. If Pina stays silent, it's an admission of guilt. As the crowd concludes that the rumors were true and that treason against the nation has been committed, Pina spirals into a mental breakdown, wondering what she could possibly do to survive this. Amidst the tension, some of the nobility find the spectacle thrilling, with one woman declaring it the most exciting party she's ever attended. She muses with a predatory smile that the entire power structure of the country will be overhauled by the end of the night, while Pina sinks into a state of total despair. Pina's internal monologue is a storm of jealousy and rage. She can't comprehend why Remelia is wearing a dress that matches Lord Angle's colors, or how she stole the Mana Stone. To the Demon King, however, her delusions are simply pathetic, leaving him to wonder if she is truly mentally unstable. Lord Ongle delivers a final crushing blow to Pina's ego. He declares that when he desires someone, it is never because of their title or status. As he stands with Remilia in a moment of ethereal beauty, the nobles and the Demon Kingdom's entourage look on, realizing that Pina's Star Maiden title means nothing to him. The contrast is absolute. Remilia's gaze is clear, confident, and piercing, while Lord Angel looks at her with a quiet, intense devotion. In this single look, they share a bond that completely erases Pina's existence from the equation. Prince Willard is completely shattered, his mind flooded with memories of the sweet, loving Remy he once knew. He screams in agony, begging her not to look at the Demon King, and desperately trying to reclaim a love he betrayed. But as he cries out, the distance between him and the new Remilia has become an unbridgeable chasm. Remilia and Lord Angel stand as a united front in the center of the ballroom, the nobility reduced to mere silhouettes around them. A poignant narration echoes through the space, speaking of a woman who never lost heart and gave everything for her beliefs, even when she didn't have a single ally in the world. The focus shifts to the image of the kind-hearted maiden known as Remilia. It is revealed that she may have been the purification maiden blessed by Lady Renge, the creator's daughter. But her capacity for love existed far beyond any divine blessing. In a moment of breathtaking devotion, Lord Angel kneels before Remilia and tenderly kisses her hand. This gesture symbolizes a bond rooted in genuine affection, contrasting the artificial lures Pina used to manipulate others. The illusion finally shatters, and the ballroom erupts into absolute chaos. The nobility, once blinded by Pina's charm, are now reeling in shock, screaming that they were deceived by her and begging for forgiveness in a frenzy of social collapse. Guards swiftly move in to escort the hysterical group to a separate room to contain the scandal. As the nobles whisper about the disgraced nouveau riche and the Florence domain, Prince Willard stands frozen, haunted by the realization that every single testimony against Remilia was a fabrication. Remilia watches the scene with a gaze of icy detachment. She reflects on how these people were completely consumed by a spell of amplified affection, and she finds their sudden display of regret utterly pathetic. She dissects their betrayal with surgical precision, questioning if some were simply attracted to her, or if they relished the idea of her sister growing jealous. To Remilia, the truth was always obvious. They simply chose to ignore it. One of the men is left in a state of internal horror, realizing a bitter truth. He concludes that the curse had no brainwashing effect on him at all, simply because he never felt a single shred of genuine affection for that woman. Remilia turns her cold gaze toward Prince Willard, reminding him of the chance he thought he had. She mocks him for fawning over Pina and indulging in the petty delusions of her sister's jealousy, while a shimmering projection begins to reveal the hidden truths of the past, a nostalgic glimpse of their childhood surfaces, contrasting the innocent bond between the sisters with a haunting narrative. The voiceover declares that Remilia was more beautiful than anyone else in the world, accompanied by a romantic sketch and a confession of a lifelong desire to marry her. Projection reveals Willard's twisted logic. He admits to deliberately isolating Remilia and fueling the terrible rumors about her, just to make her vulnerable. His plan was to rise in politics as a distinguished duke, and then claim her, once she had nothing left, leaving the present-day nobles in a state of total shock. As the reality of his failure sinks in, Willard suffers a complete mental collapse. He laughs hysterically through his tears, realizing that Remilia has ascended far beyond his reach, and that he was never meant to be a part of her new, powerful world. Suddenly, a demon official interrupts with a warning that the next projection is too explicit for unmarried women, urging the ladies to turn away. The screen flashes to a scandalous scene. Romano Dal Markelov, Remilia's former bodyguard, is caught in bed with another woman, exposing his betrayal and his adultery with the crown prince's lover. The ballroom erupts into a frenzy of disgust, with the nobility screaming about the shameless indecency on display. Pina spirals into a panic, wondering how this footage was found, while Remilia reveals that this was the final nail in the coffin, proof that Pina bribed Romano with money and her own body for false testimony. The nobility is absolutely revolted, labeling the act as a disgraceful betrayal of all morals. Remilia herself looks on with an expression of profound disgust, admitting that the scene was so revolting she almost lost her own composure. The final judgment is swift and merciless. The nobles mock Pina as a natural-born con artist and a complete mismatch for the title of Star Maiden. Watching from the side, Lord Angel and his companion look on with cold indifference, concluding that she is an absolute disgrace to the nation. Lord Angel brings up the legendary prophecy of the Star Maiden, who is said to appear only when a crisis throws the world into great chaos. With a knowing smile, he questions whether the world is actually a bit too peaceful for such a legend to be true, leaving his companion utterly bewildered. He explains that while the Demon Kingdom's miasma was a persistent issue, it never truly devastated the human world, and the nation was more than capable of solving its own problems. Since the world was never in great chaos, Angel drops a bombshell. The so-called Star Maiden might actually be the true harbinger of disaster itself. Just as the tension peaks, Angel laughs it off as a joke, leaving the other men flustered. Meanwhile, Remilia asks him to stop, worried that they are pushing the public humiliation too far. Though Angel assures her that he has already taken the necessary measures against Romano and the other perpetrators. Pina completely spirals, screaming in rage that using an album of projections against her is totally unfair. When Prince Willard asks her why she would commit such atrocities, she desperately tries to play the victim, sobbing that Remilia is a magical genius who faked the footage just to take revenge. Willard shuts down her lie with a single crushing question. If the footage is fake, then how do the moles on her body in the video match the ones she's hiding under her clothes right now? Pina is frozen in terror, wondering how he could possibly know such intimate details. A memory surfaces from right after their academy graduation, where Pina attempted to seduce Willard by wearing nothing but thin undergarments beneath her coat, recalling her shameless graduation gift. Willard looks at the broken woman before him and declares he is truly glad he turned her down back then. Remilia watches the spectacle with a smug satisfaction, viewing it as karma for her own good behavior. Meanwhile, Prince Willard's expression turns menacing. Now that the Demon King's wine has broken the mind-controlling curse, he leans in to demand the truth about what Pina has been doing to them all this time. All cornered and trembling, Pina looks at the men who once claimed to love her, only to find their eyes filled with coldness. She desperately denies everything, screaming that it's all a huge mistake and that she isn't the villain, while clinging to the delusional memory of when they all told her they preferred her over Remilia. The tide has completely turned. The men who once worshipped now stare at her with pure loathing, blaming her for every cruelty they inflicted upon Remilia. One of them screams in a fit of rage, calling her a wretch and questioning who could ever truly love someone as vile as her. Pina is left reeling, unable to comprehend the sudden hatred. But as the nobility closes in, they tear into her, calling her a disgusting liar. They demand to know the truth about the fake stories she spread regarding the demon folk, stripping away her mask of purity in front of everyone. In a manic explosion of desperation, Pina begins screaming nonsense, calling the creator an evil god and a final boss. The crowd is horrified by her blasphemy, while Lord Angel watches with cold indifference as Pina's social standing vanishes into thin air. Collapsing to the floor, Pina lets out a jagged laugh and throws one last desperate accusation at Remilia. She screams for her to cut the act, claiming that Remilia is a reincarnator just like she is. Remilia is genuinely baffled by the term, but Pina screams in frustration, explaining that it means someone reborn from another world. In a state of total delirium, Pina reveals the most shocking truth of all, that they are all characters in a video game called Stark Knight. Remilia, however, remains confused, stating she has no memory of a past life. Lord Angel immediately confirms that Remilia is telling the truth, leaving Pina stunned. Remilia calmly explains the mystery. She isn't the one who was reincarnated. That was Emi. Remilia simply possesses the ability to peek into Emi's memories, revealing that Stark Knight is actually the game The Star Maiden and the Knight of Salvation. As the nobility looks on with pity, Remilia delivers the final, most crushing blow. With a soft, mournful expression, she tells Pina that she must have lived a terribly sad and lonely life, resorting to bribes, seduction, and mind control just to feel a love that was nothing more than a lie. The weight of the exposure and Remilia's mercy finally breaks her. Pina is left in a state of catatonic shock, her mind completely blank as she stares into a void of her own making. Unable to utter anything more than a hollow, broken "huh?", the facade finally shatters completely. In a visceral display of psychological collapse, Pina's mind breaks, leaving her eyes wide and vacant as she spirals into a void of pure, unfiltered despair. Suddenly, that despair turns into a manic, screeching rage. Pina erupts, screaming profanities and cursing Remilia for ruining her happiness, while Remilia remains eerily calm, knowing that her shimmering tears make her look like a goddess to the terrified onlookers. Pina struggles violently, her body trembling with a mixture of hate and hysteria. The nobility watches in utter disgust as guards finally step in, forcibly seizing the screaming woman and dragging her away from the banquet. Even as she is hauled off, Pina continues to shriek death threats, but her words only solidify the crowd's horror. Remilia watches with cold satisfaction, noting the sheer frustration of being crushed by the one person Pina couldn't beat without cheating, only to be met with pity in return. Remilia reflects on the fragility of loyalty bought with money and drugs, as those who once supported Pina are now the first to turn against her. With her crimes laid bare, the king agrees that there is no reason to keep such a disruptive element in the palace. While Lord Angel watches the scene with a calculating gaze, Lord Angel openly admires Remilia's boundless mercy for pitying her enemy, a move that completely seals her image as a saint. The nobility now hails her as the Maiden of Purification, praising her sacred tears while branding Pina a legendary villainess and a monster. With a masterstroke of diplomacy, Lord Angel tells the king that the demon kingdom does not hold the nation responsible for the actions of a shrewd devil like Pina. By separating the woman's crimes from the country's honor, he proves himself to be a born ruler, earning Remelia's silent respect. Angel goes a step further, suggesting that Pina was not the true Star Maiden, but something evil that usurped her place. As he subtly decides that the woman must be eliminated for good, Remelia's eyes light up. She's just had a wonderful idea. Lord Angel begins weaving a masterful lie for the king, framing a narrative where Remelia was the true victim of false accusations, forced to journey alone through ancient ruins. He claims that her former fiancé and friends were ensnared by a devil, Pina, who was born from an evil god to bring ruin to both humans and demons alike. The nobility is instantly swept up in the story, chattering in shock as they realize Pina was merely an impostor who stole the Star Maiden's identity. Lord Angel seals the deal by suggesting that vanquishing this devil will secure a prosperous alliance with the demon kingdom, turning a national disgrace into a glorious new legend. Remelia recognizes the game Angel is playing. He is turning Pina into a symbol of sin to use her as a scapegoat, erasing all inconvenient truths in one stroke. She realizes that by eliminating Pina, every problem in the country will be solved, and no one will dare oppose such a timely solution. In a show of public grace, Remelia tells Angel that she does not wish to take Pina's life, stating that she wants her to live and atone for her crimes. However, Angel's inner thoughts are far more predatory, viewing the broken woman not as a soul to be saved, but as his own personal prey. The nobility is left speechless by Remelia's apparent saintliness, their faces filled with awe at her boundless compassion. But behind her serene smile, Remelia's heart is cold as ice. She knows that for someone like Pina, even the mercy of death is far too good. The scene shifts to a place of absolute darkness and terror. A man wakes up in a panic, finding himself bound by heavy chains in a void, screaming in desperation as he wonders what hellish place he has been brought to. A flicker of light pierces the gloom as Remelia enters, holding a lantern that casts long, haunting shadows. The prisoner screams her name in a mixture of hope and horror, but Remelia only looks down at him with a distant, chilling gaze, informing him that he is now in a dimensional rift. Remelia reveals that this is her private laboratory in an alternate plane, a world where neither Emi nor the good version of herself exists. Embracing her identity as the true villainess, she confronts the man about the lies he spread to save himself, declaring that for those who destroyed the goodness of their world, there is absolutely no mercy. Remelia looms over the chained man, coldly informing him that his world is crumbling. In the capital, every woman he deceived is now speaking out against him. She mocks his pathetic attempt at revenge, questioning if it all stemmed from the simple fact that she rejected the advances of a lowly bodyguard. He reminds him of how heartlessly he tossed her aside after graduation, taking advantage of the lies spread by Pina to make her dependent on him. As the man trembles in fear, asking what she plans to do, Remelia looks at him with pure disgust, calling him a pervert for being turned on by his own desperation. With a chilling smile, Remelia announces the start of an experiment to decipher the soul, a daring attempt to dabble in the arts of Saigzat. When the man asks if she has gone insane, she admits that she would love to regain her sanity too, but it is people like him who made it impossible. The chaos of the banquet settles, the scene shifts to the royal castle. Prince Willard, consumed by guilt and sorrow, offers a heartfelt apology, begging for Remelia's forgiveness from the bottom of his heart. In the quiet of the garden, Willard confesses that he always loved her, but felt he wasn't good enough for someone who shone so brightly. He admits his twisted logic. He hoped she was as flawed as Pina claimed, thinking they might finally be a good match. To his surprise, Remelia softly replies, "I loved you too," but the confession comes too late. Remelia reveals the heartbreaking truth. The girl who desperately wanted to hear those words no longer exists. As Willard collapses in tears, calling her name, she delivers a final, cold farewell, severing their bond forever. Walking away from the broken prince, Remelia dismisses his late regrets as utter nonsense. Yet, she admits to herself that seeing those who hurt her cry in agony provides a small, soothing balm to the pain she feels from losing Emi. Her path leads her to Lord Angel, who watches her with a knowing gaze. As he remarks that she seems to have finally moved on for good, Remelia looks at him, her expression softening as she simply breathes his name. In a moment of unexpected tenderness amidst the ruins of her enemies, Lord Angel looks at Remelia and delivers a proposal that changes everything. "I want you to marry me." The story flashes back to a few weeks prior, revealing a sinister detail. A group of people traveling to a neighboring country were reportedly swept away by a landslide and knocked into a river, with only the coachman and horses surviving the disaster. To preserve their authority and distance themselves from the devil's influence, the royal family fast-tracked a series of trials. This resulted in a wave of disownments and the dissolution of noble houses, as evidence of Pina's misdeeds, including the murder of her own go-between, was brought to light. While the public believed Pina was merely sentenced to forced labor to provide blessings for minors, the truth was far more cruel. To prevent her from manipulating anyone, she was silenced with a magic tool, shrouded in a veil, and locked inside a mobile cage filled with foul-smelling incense. Trapped in darkness and filth, Pina spirals into a manic state, screaming profanities and demanding to know who is doing this to her. She is a prisoner in every sense, her voice muffled, and her dignity stripped away by the very system she tried to game. All. Just as she reaches her breaking point, a man named Elmar appears, claiming he has come to save her. Delusional and desperate, Pina believes she is finally back in a game route, convinced that the world has been patched, to give her a happy ending with her savior. When a group of other handsome men appear, Pina is overwhelmed with joy, imagining herself as the heroine once again. She believes this is her moment of triumph, thinking she can finally get her revenge on that tramp Remilia now that the roots are in her favor. But the rescue is a brutal lie. The cage is crashed open not to free her but to deliver her into a living hell. The men are not her lovers. They are the victims of her past crimes, led by the son of the man she scammed and murdered. As they call her a piece of trash and a she-devil, Pina realizes with horror that this is no game. It is a nightmare from which there is no escape. In a visceral surge of hatred, Remilia casts her final judgment upon Pina. She rejects any plea for atonement or remorse, branding her a cesspit of malice and condemning her to a life of wretched misery. This is the price for stealing Emmy away and destroying her kind world, a living hell for a devil who deserves nothing less. The world outside continues to buzz with the scandal, as citizens gossip in cafes about the shocking truth. The Stars Maiden was possessed by a devil. Even the Magic Tower feels the fallout, with budget cuts and layoffs following the devil's rampage at the ball, which witnesses describe as the behavior of a wild beast. Amidst the political upheaval, a man with glasses and his black-haired companion discuss the shifting tides of power. They note that those who falsely exiled Lady Remilia are now being purged from the castle. The man with glasses marvels at his friend's luck, having been approached for employment by both Prince Harsha and Lady Remilia, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. However, the black-haired man is exhausted by the games of the elite. Having tasted the freedom of vacation, he admits he no longer has any desire to be entangled in royal affairs, power struggles, or conspiracies. Seeing an opening, the man with glasses reveals he had a different kind of offer in mind. Burning with a new passion after discovering tools from the Demon Kingdom, the man with glasses pitches a dream, traveling the world to learn from demonic and dwarven craftsmen to eventually open a magic tool shop. Admitting he is terrible at paperwork, he asks his friend a simple question. So, wanna run a shop with me? Untempted by the prospect of a life centered on fun rather than duty, the black-haired man begins to waver. Encouraged to free himself from the suffocating responsibilities of public service, he feels a sudden, impulsive urge to try something entirely new. With a small laugh, he decides to take the leap. Heh, why not? The man with glasses is ecstatic, praising his friend's eye for taste for choosing a humble partnership over the invitations of royalty. As they celebrate their new venture with the promise of a home-cooked meal, the focus shifts to a desk covered in blueprints, a symbol of the freedom they've chosen to draw for themselves. But their private moment was not as private as they thought. From a distance, Lord Angel and his subordinates, disguised as noble siblings, had been eavesdropping on every word. While Angel admits the man would have been a valuable asset for the work ahead, he decides not to interfere, choosing instead to let the man enjoy his newfound happiness. In a rare moment of vulnerability, the Crown Prince confesses the crushing weight of his responsibilities and his past life of debauchery. Lord Angel responds with a playful yet daring promise. If the prince ever truly feels the urge to flee the country, Angel will personally kidnap him. The prince's subordinates can only watch in horror, stunned that someone would so casually threaten to abduct the future king. Angel clarifies that he simply wants the prince to embrace his full potential without reservations. Whilst he insists he has no desire to see the prince become a criminal, he admits with a smirk that keeping the option of a disappearing act as a card up his sleeve makes him a bit happier. The prince is left speechless by Angel's unconventional brand of support. With a playful pinch to the prince's cheek, Angel turns his focus toward the future of the realm. He warns that an unchecked influence from the Demon Kingdom could deepen political divides, and he expresses a fervent desire to use his skills to build a better kingdom. His goal is clear: to reform education and bring an end to the age of hereditary monarchy, a vision that earns the immediate respect of the royal staff. Returning to the present, the air is thick with tension as Lord Angel delivers his proposal. I want you to marry me. He acknowledges the complications of their differing races and lifespans, explaining that he waited until she had settled things with the prince to speak his truth. Remilia is momentarily stunned, wondering how to respond, only to realize that her heart has already been completely conquered. Overwhelmed with joy, Remilia reflects on Angel's profound kindness and his ability to care for people regardless of labels of good or evil. As memories of her arduous journey and the people she's met flash before her, she realizes that being seen and accepted for who she truly is the greatest happiness she has ever known. Her thoughts drift to Emmy, the kind-hearted girl whose soul continues to influence her. Remilia remembers how Emmy wept for the original villainess and believed in saving others even while being hurt by those around her. To Remilia, Emmy was a wonderful soul who helped others without obligation, and it is that same kindness that now guides her own heart. A radiant smile lights up Remilia's face as she feels a deep sense of peace. She realizes that by loving her, Angel has embraced the most precious part of her, her dignity. If he can love Emmy's Remilia this much, she knows with absolute certainty that she can love him too. In a tender, sweeping embrace, Remilia vows to make Angel happy, no matter what the future holds. She notices the way he looks at her, checking to see if her words are honest, and she beams with happiness knowing that he can see the absolute truth in her heart. Under a brilliant sky, Remilia and Lord Angel share a tender embrace, surrounded by a sea of blooming flowers. In this moment of absolute peace, the storms of revenge and betrayal finally fade into the background. Remilia confesses that it is only by his side that she truly feels like Emmy's Remilia. She begs him to keep watching her for the rest of his life, with those beautiful eyes of truth that refuse to tolerate lies. Deep within, she reaches out to the soul of the girl who came before her, sensing that Emmy is still there, lingering in her heart. Driven by a new purpose, Remilia vows to bring Emmy back. She plans to unravel the secrets of the soul and study the arts of homunculi to create a physical body for her friend. As she imagines a future where they can exist together, she playfully wonders if Emmy would prefer to return as a cat, just as she once did. Remilia envisions a life where she can shower Emmy with the same boundless love and affection Emmy once received from her own mother in another world. She dreams of a family full of warmth and laughter, where even their small bickers are signs of a bond that can never be broken. In a radiant vision of the future, Remilia sees herself leading a happy community, surrounded by the smiles of children. This time, she promises it will be her turn to ensure that Emmy becomes the happiest girl in the entire world. The memories of the past return, the coldness of Prince Willard annulling their engagement, and the crushing weight of failure. She sees Emmy weeping, apologizing for not being able to make Remilia happy. But the entity now inhabiting the body reaches out to comfort her, whispering that Emmy has absolutely nothing to apologize for. The boundary between the two souls thins as they finally truly acknowledge one another. With a gentle, knowing smile, Remilia greets the soul of the reincarnator. "Good morning, Emmy. Or perhaps I should say, pleased to meet you." In a final ethereal image, Remilia looks down upon Emmy with a gaze of pure affection. As Emmy softly calls out her name in disbelief, the story reaches its emotional peak, leading into the final chapter. Epilogue: The One Within the Villainess. 15 years have passed in an instant, and Kobayashi Emmy wakes up to a dreamlike reality. She is receiving a lap pillow from her idol, Remilia. Overwhelmed with joy, Emmy realizes that Remilia not only saved the world but also cleared her name of every false charge. As they talk, Emmy admits that while she still holds a grudge against the devil who stole her life, she is relieved that the woman wasn't sentenced to death. She confesses her deep terror from the past, fearing that no one believed her, and that she was merely a pawn in a predetermined game scenario. Finding peace in the realization that they all live by their own free will, Emmy admits she suffered from the guilt of doubting those she loved. Her only true desire was to make Remilia happy. Now she looks to her friend with a heavy question. "Did you ever resent me for taking over your body?" Remilia's answer is immediate and heartfelt. Not one bit. She reveals that it was actually her greatest joy to be loved by Emmy, recalling the adorable smile the girl once wore. Remilia knows that even before the reincarnation, Emmy's soul had always wanted to make her happy. Emmy is moved to tears, realizing that the loneliness Remilia felt while watching her memories must have been far worse than her own isolation. She admires Remilia's strength and coolness, while Remilia softly replies that it was Emmy's love that helped her grow into the person she is today. Remilia then drops a bombshell. She and Angel now have a child together. She explains that the child's soul belonged to the original Star Maiden, whose body had been taken over before entering the academy. The original soul had sought refuge in the spirit realm, where Remilia found her and gave her a new life as an ordinary boy, free from her terrible past. Having borrowed a space from the Spirit King to summon Emmy's soul, Remilia makes a startling proposal. "Why not become my child?" She explains that while using a baby's body as a vessel would mean losing most of her memories, It would allow Emmy to be born into this world naturally without stealing another's life. Rejecting the idea of a golem, Emmy chooses the path of rebirth, wanting to become a proper member of this world. Remilia promises to fight to preserve as many of Emmy's memories of her original family as possible. As Emmy looks back one last time at the parents she must leave behind to start anew. In a heart-wrenching embrace, Remilia comforts a stunned Emmy, who feels as though her every thought is being read. With a tender voice, Remilia assures her that everything is okay, promising to cherish and remember every moment of the love and effort Emmy poured into her life. Emmy gazes up in awe. Remilia whispers for her to rest easy, calling her my beloved child. It is a moment of absolute surrender and peace, as the two souls finally find solace in each other's arms. Within this ethereal connection, Emmy feels the presence of the real Pina-chan, reborn as Remilia's child. She begins to reflect on the mystery of her own existence, wondering why she was destined to be reincarnated into this world as Remilia. Emmy theorizes that the rigid rules of the game broke down because of her own deepest wishes, allowing Remilia to break free from her scripted role as a villainess and discover the power of love. She muses that while they were once destined to kill each other as players, they have instead created a world where such laws no longer exist. Though she jokingly wonders if this is all just an otaku's delusion, Emmy finds peace in the hope that it's true. Addressing her family in her original world, she tells them she lived a truly happy life even after death. And as she leaves, she looks forward to the day she and Remilia meet again. Amidst a cosmic expanse of shimmering stars, Remilia reaches out toward a distant brilliant light. A long-awaited longing fills the air as she whispers, "At last, at long last, Przichen." Tears stream down Remilia's face, but she wears a smile of pure relief. She recalls the agony of her past, being unloved by her parents, betrayed by her fiancé, and abandoned by the very creator of the world. For so long, she was a villainess whose existence was denied, believing she would have been better off never being born. But through her tears, Remilia confesses the truth. Emmy was the only one in the entire world who ever truly loved her and wished for her happiness. Filled with bubbling joy, Remilia admits that every part of her being, from the tips of her toes to the ends of her hair, was finally filled with Emmy's unconditional love. With tears of pure joy streaming down her face, Remilia finally finds the peace she never thought possible. She tells Emmy that she is truly glad she was born, confessing that the simple act of Emmy wishing for her happiness made her the happiest girl in the world. As the light fades, she leaves behind one final tender promise, that they will meet again in this new gentle world. The end.